Warning, today's episode contains spoilers. So if you have not seen the movie or TV show that we are talking about, we highly recommend that you watch it first, then listen to this episode. Thank you. Hello and welcome to episode 4 of The East Meets the West. I'm your host Ringo, and I'm joined once again by Patsy the Angry Nerd. How's it going, Pat?
Pretty well. You know, get to talk about a couple more movies this week, and I'm very excited to discuss this one because I think this was a good time.
Yes, same here. And it's kind of funny because, well, with the Shaw Brothers, I kind of specifically picked one, but with the spaghetti westerns, since I don't really know a lot of them, I just know a handful of them, I just picked one at random, and I think we kind of lucked out with both films today.
Yeah.
So as we continue our journey exploring the Shaw Brothers films and spaghetti westerns, we're watching a lot of really good movies, like we just said, and of course today's double feature is no exception. As always, we'll begin with a Shaw Brothers film. In this case, The Kid with the Golden Arm from 1979, once again directed by Chang Cheh. And once again, all 5 Venom actors are reunited in this film. Now, for first-time listeners, the movie Five Deadly Venoms, or just 5 Venoms, from 1978 was directed by Chang Cheh and starred 6 actors, most of which would work together in several succeeding films, and many of which Cheh also directed. The actors became known in real life as the Venom Mob, or the 5 Weapons Guys. All told, there are about 19 Venom films, quote-unquote, and the criteria is that they're either directed by Chang Cheh or one of the Venoms, or at least 3 of the Venom Mob star in the film. So far, in our first 3 episodes, we covered the first 3 quote-unquote Venom films, the 5 Deadly Venoms, Invincible Shaolin, and Crippled Avengers. Now, we're going to skip over 4 films for today's pick because 2 of them have Shaolin in the title, and I didn't want listeners to get confused. And also, this ended up being the last picture that the real 5 Venom actors, Chien, Meng, Kuo Chue, Feng and Wei Bai, would star in together because of Wei Bai's health. Also, this was the last film that Chang Cheh directed starring the 5 Weapons Guys actors, Sun Lo, Kuo, Lu, and Chang Sheng. Sadly, Wei Bai, who played the swordsman Li Meng in today's film, suffered physical and mental stress from Tourette syndrome, which is why in this film they gave him a sword. Because Tourette's is a sensory integration disorder, the mere touch of, say, a stuntman would cause a tic, so Bai used a sword instead. Knowing this, you could kind of see in his face that he had lost confidence in his abilities, and although they used really good camera work and camera shots to hide this. Wei Bai had shot John Woo's last film, Last Hurrah for Chivalry, simultaneously with this film, and then afterwards his last acting job was a cameo in 1988's Devil and the Ghostbuster. So good job, Rigor, for starting the show on a bummer.
G-Saw gang have a plan. They intend to hijack the gold.
Swordsman Li Qingning and his girl have offered us help to escort the gold.
The G-Saw gang is quite ruthless. Be real careful. The G-Saw have 4 chiefs. Golden Arm, Silver Spear, Iron Rope, Brass Hand,
The government asks Yang Hu-yun to escort a cargo of gold to a famine-stricken area. The vicious Chi-sa gang announces their intention to hijack it by killing one of Yang's employees. Yang describes to his men the Chi-sa's 4 chiefs, each of whom has mastered a style of fighting: Golden Arm, Silver Spear, Iron Robe, and the Brass Head. To protect the gold, Yang hires swordsman Li Chin-ming, Ming's girlfriend/fiancée Miss Lang Feng, Long Axe Yang Ju, Short Axe Fang Shi, and Drunken Master Agent or Sheriff Hai Tao. While scouting ahead, Long and Short Axe encounter the Seven Hooks gang and proceed to fight and kill 3 gang members each. Being competitive fighters, neither wants to kill more than the other, so they kill the last gang member together. Before meeting with Yang, Lang encounters Iron Robe. Hai Tao appears and defeats her attacker, though he disappears once again before she can thank him. When Lang meets with Meng at a winery, the employees, which are Silver Spear, Brass Head, and several Chi-sa gang members in disguise, attack them. Meng is poisoned by San Palm, played by Dick Wei, before they flee. Despite the commotion, Hai Tao enters and demands service. After defeating several gang members, he identifies the disguised owner and manager as Silver Spear and Brass Head. After they pull off their disguises, they invite Hai Tao to join their gang. When he refuses, they allow him to leave peacefully, still hoping to recruit him. Ming continues on his own after arguing with Lang over whether he should see a doctor. He's interested only in completing the mission. Meanwhile, Yang and his men battle Brass Head, who bursts from a secret tunnel in the floor. After mortally wounding him, they are in turn defeated by Golden Arm, whose unarmed style makes him invulnerable to their attacks. Golden Arm promises Brass Head vengeance before leaving to catch up with his gang members that have stolen the gold. Hai Tao stops the wagon by popping off a wheel, kills Iron Robe, and hides. Impressed with Hai Tao's skill, Golden Arm becomes determined to fight him. Golden Arm leaves the wagon for Yang to fix, confident that he can retake it later. Silver Spear easily defeats a weakened Ming, but Hai Tao rescues him. As Silver Spear retreats, Hai Tao takes Ming to a crematory. As Lang protests, the heat revives and cures Ming, though he's ungrateful and annoyed to owe his life to Hai Tao. As Yang and his men retrieve and fix the wagon, several men are poisoned from traps and die. All converge in a town where they agree to rest for the night. After several more people die from poison traps, and Hai Tao saves the survivors from another trap, they realize the entire town is a big trap. Ming becomes angry when Hai Tao and Lang become flirtatious. 2 of Yang's men die as they attempt to steal the gold, making Hai Tao suspicious, as he reasons the Chi-sa gang could not foresee this. In the morning, he leaves for another town where he confronts Silver Spear, who's confused when Hai Tao questions him about poisoning the gold. Silver Spear leaves him with an ultimatum: join the gang or duel Golden Arm. Hai Tao chooses to duel. On the road, Yang's remaining escort become afraid and ask to leave, which he grants. Short Axe and Long Axe scout ahead where they discover several Chi-sa gang members and Silver Spear. Silver Spear kills Long Axe from a distance with silver darts, which angers Short Axe, spurring him to kill most of the gang members. While Silver Spear is fighting Short Axe, a gang member sneaks up behind him and impales Short Axe on a spear. In turn, Short Axe uses his weapons to kill the attacker. As Silver Spear is about to inflict an impaling blow on Short Axe impales Silver Spear before he dies. Before either can inflict another blow to each other, they each drop dead. Upon finding the tombs of Long Axe and Short Axe, Ming storms off impatiently to challenge Golden Arm, who defeats and kills him. Hai Tao duels with Golden Arm, reasoning that his eyes are unprotected. Hai Tao blinds him by spitting wine. Yang demands they kill Golden Arm, but when Hai Tao refuses, a man bursts from the gold cart, slashes Hai Tao, and reveals himself as Iron Feet. Iron Feet explains that he partnered with Yang to counteract Golden Arm's Chi-sa gang and claim the gold for themselves. However, he kills Yang. As the now blinded Golden Arm and Iron Feet duel, Hai Tao reveals that he was only pretending to be wounded. Iron Feet only slashed his wine canteen. Together, Golden Arms and Hai Tao kill Iron Feet. Golden Arm intends to retire, but is mortally wounded by Lang Feng. Instead of killing her, he accepts his death as a better alternative, and Hai Tao leaves Lang to escort the gold as he gets drunk. So, what are your thoughts? Your initial thoughts on this movie?
I really, really enjoyed this one. I really liked Phillip Kwok as Hai Tao. Like, some of the acrobatics and things that he did were really exceptional. At the beginning, I was like, oh, I'm not totally sold on this fight choreography. But as it went along, it got better and better. And, you know, when the main characters were facing off against each other and not just, the faceless armies, the disposable army guys.
You don't even have a name tag.
Yeah. That's when I was really invested in it. Obviously it's still weird to me, and we'll get into this with the next movie as well. But it's still weird to me hearing such strange voices coming out of, like you look at a guy and it's like, oh, that's not how he's gonna sound.
Right.
And it's like he's got this weird voice. Yeah.
That's funny.
I really liked it. I liked the characters a lot in this. It was just so much fun. Like long acts and short acts were probably my favorite. I would watch a whole like buddy cop movie of those guys.
Oh yeah, yeah, they're so good. I really like short acts was Chang Cheh. I'm really starting to think he's my favorite of the Venom Mob. And I loved his outfit in this movie. He was similar to Invincible Shaolin, but he's got this, like, I don't know, I can't describe it. It's just a cool black outfit with, like, not lace on it, but like shoelace kind of tie in the front, and it just looked really cool.
Yeah, it definitely looked very comfortable. I have to say that Iron Robe's death, oof. Oh, not the way I'd want to go.
Yeah. Oh man, we'll get into that in a little bit, but yeah, that was cringeworthy. There was a lot of cringy stuff in this movie, and there were, sitting on the spikes and all that. And first, I wanted to kind of go over the cast and crew here. Well, I've never seen this one before either, and so this was my kind of first foray into this movie, and I also enjoyed it thoroughly. I loved the pacing, I loved the directing, and did you notice there was no training montage in this movie?
Yeah, well, I mean, everybody was already, super talented and skilled.
Right.
So there was really no need for it.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's, I loved the drunken style that
Hai Tao
did.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. So much fun. Like I'm watching it, and it was almost like watching a Harlem Globetrotters routine sometimes, right. Where he would like swing the wine jug around.
Yeah, there's so many wine jugs got trashed in this movie. I was appalled.
I know, right?
Oh my God,
it's a terrible waste of wine.
I no kidding. So the film was, of course, directed by Chang Cheh, and he also co-wrote it with a guy named Ni Kwong, which every time I read that name, I just think of Ni Kwong from Monty Python's Holy Grail. But this was interesting when I did the little research. Ni Kwong, he wrote over 300 screenplays, and he's considered one of the 4 great talents of Hong Kong. He had an interesting life, and we should kind of dive into that maybe in a future episode, because he was in the Chinese Liberation Army in 1951, and his job was basically to write death sentences. But when he started to see that people were being put to death for stupid things like being a landowner, he escaped to Hong Kong, traveling through Macau after a 3-month flight during which he survived by eating mice, ants, and cotton. Yeah. So it's understandable that he remained violently anti-communist the whole rest of his life. In Hong Kong, he became...
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. In Hong Kong, he became a construction worker by day and went to the university at night. And there was one day where he's just like reading the newspaper, and he realized that he could write articles just as good as the writers in the paper. So he started writing, and soon he was getting published in various newspapers. And then a year later, he published a novel based on the atrocities that he witnessed, but he didn't really become popular until he started writing science fiction novels and wuxia screenplays. Now, wuxia literally means martial heroes, and it's the genre that we're studying. It's a genre of Chinese fiction concerning the adventures of martial artists in ancient China. Basically, most of the Shaw Brothers films are wuxia, and those are the ones that we'll be covering on this show. So there's this whole world of interesting things here that we're going to explore in depth as we go along. I really enjoyed not only watching the film, I watched it twice, but doing the research. And what was kind of funny, you had mentioned earlier, something that made me think of this. My grandson, he's 4 actually. He came into the room towards the end of my second viewing of the Kid with the Golden Arm, and he was like, his jaw hit the floor. He loved it. He was just enjoying it immensely, and he wanted to watch it again. And I had already seen it, for my second time. I was like, no, let's watch something else. So I put on Invincible Shaolin, and he was really enjoying that too. And I've noticed with the subtitles, because I watched them with the subtitles. I don't know if you did, Pat, but halfway through the film, the subtitles go out of sync, so it's kind of annoying. But I did notice in this film, as with the last one, that the character names were kind of the same from what they said and what was written on the screen. So that was good. It was less confusing. I thought overall the plot was simple, not so confusing, and it was very much in the style of a Western plot. Protect the gold.
Yeah, it definitely had that Western feel to it.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to let the cast stand on their own in this movie, and I'm not going to go through which characters they played in other films, but I will include that in the show notes for those who are playing along at home. So we've got Sun Chien, who played Yang Hu Yun, and Iron Feet. Sun has twice as many fights in this film than he had in the previous 4 Venom Mob films, partly because of his lesser skill set. Although most of the Venoms were fight instructors and choreographers, Sun and Meng never were fight choreographers for the films. Of course, Meng played Golden Arms. I've seen it as Golden Arm and Golden Arms, and especially the title of the film, so I don't know which is the proper one. But he, of course, is the undisputed leader and founder of the Chisa gang, and he's the youngest member, so I think that's why the movie's titled The Kid with the Golden Arms, even though he's not a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I think because he's the youngest one. Kuo Chue, known to our listeners as Phillip Kwok, or as I like to say, Jared Padalecki's Asian cousin, plays Hai Tao, and you mentioned him earlier. He's a government agent who fights best when he's drunken. He easily was the standout character in this movie, I thought.
Oh yeah, he was funny. He was exciting. He, everything he did was just, whenever he was on screen, he forced your focus onto him. I think he was easily the best character in this.
Yeah. And it was cool because he had this confidence about himself that he wasn't, he didn't look down on other people, but you could just tell that he knew exactly what he was doing and how to manipulate things to his advantage.
Yeah.
So we have Lu Feng, who played Silver Spear, and he's got this cool spear that can extend itself when he needs it, and he also carries around throwing darts. They're like little daggers. I thought those were cool. Chang Cheh was Short Axe, which we mentioned earlier. Chu Pei Sun played Long Axe, Fang Shi. And Wei Pai or Wei Bai, as it's written in different places, he played Li Chin Ming, the swordsman. Helen Poon, who is also known as Pan Bing Chang, she played Miss Lang Feng, or I've seen it written as Heroine Lang. And basically, this was interesting because she was the first female combatant in a 5 Weapons Guy film. So that was cool. And then Wang Lung Wei played Iron Robe. They said Robe, but the subtitle said Rogue, so I don't know which one to go with. Which did you see or hear?
I heard robe because that's literally what he was wearing, the heavily armored robe that kept stopping the spear over and over again.
That was so cool. It's an armored kimono.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of some of the armor patterns I would see in some of the Game of Thrones stuff.
Oh yeah, that's true. Then we've got Yang Sung, who played Brasshead. He's the 4th in command of the Chisa gang, and his style basically incorporates fatal headbutts from his brass helmet. And then Dick Wei.
Yeah, he seemed more like an out of place Bond villain.
Didn't he? Yeah.
It was the worst. Everybody else at least could do stuff, but he was just oh, I'm gonna headbutt you.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, the one that confused me the most, well, not really confused me, but I was a little frustrated. We had Dick Wei was back in with the Venom Mob. He played the Sand Palm Fighter, whose palm strike can kill a man within hours if not treated, but I don't think we even saw his face. See, we just saw his hands go through the wall when he hits Lee, and that's it. And Lee turns around and stabs him through the wall.
Yeah, it might have been maybe there was a longer scene that got cut or something.
Maybe, yeah. Because he's not really listed as, because they all have something. They've got the spear or the armor or the headbutting thing, and he's got the sand palm, but he's not listed as one of the, the main guys of the Chisa gang.
Right.
So I just thought that was interesting. Almost like it's like a plot device, like they purposely put him in there just to have him poison Lee.
Yeah.
So one thing I found out actually purely by accident, I happened to be looking the movie up, and there was a website came up, and for some reason it didn't play the whole movie, but it started playing like the first 40 minutes of the film, and it was in Chinese with subtitles, and it had right at the very beginning of the opening shot, there's a sign above Yang, and the subtitle said that the sign said Huawei Security Bureau, and that wasn't. I don't think that was in the Prime version, the subtitle. So I thought that was cool because that kind of cleared it up a little bit for me. I wasn't quite sure where they were and who they were at first, and then when I went back and looked at that, I was like, oh, okay, they're the Security Bureau, and Yang is the chief of the bureau.
Yeah, it was almost like it was it was just understood through context that that's what they were doing.
Right. So he manages to gather, as we said in the summary, Yan and Fang and Li and Miss Lang to carry the gold, and they're waiting. Haito is supposed to show up, and I saw him referred to as sheriff or government agent. So it's one of those take your pick kind of thing. And of course, one of Yang's guys comes in, and the Chisa gang carve their name in his back, and he drops dead. So Yang knows that the Chisa is going to try and steal the gold. As we said, Yan and Fang go ahead to scout, and I thought it was funny because Yan mentions that the gang is going to ambush them. As soon as he mentions the fact that, they're going to ambush us, they get ambushed.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. I think it's almost unintentional comedy.
Yeah.
Kind of like the end. It's, I think I'll retire. Oh!
Right. And they did it again later on in the film, too, where Yan's like, geez, you'd think they would have attacked us by now, and then they get attacked. It's like... Yeah.
I think it's definitely unintentional comedy.
Yeah.
Because these films do have their fair share of, humorous moments. But, overall they go for a serious vibe. But, yeah, there are those moments where it's like, it's like, that's so ridiculous. And I can understand where, like, some audiences might look at that and be like, oh, well, this is why you can't take these seriously because, look at what they're doing.
Right.
But I think that's done for specific reasons. They're clearly on a set. It's just a filmmaking choice. And, that's not what you're supposed to be watching. Like, you're supposed to be watching, like, this intensely choreographed fight scene with, a dozen people in it, which is very difficult to do. And, we've talked about this before with other films where, if you're watching this film and it's one steady shot, and even like the camera movements are following, I noticed one specific sequence where, two of the fighters, like they kind of, their weapons clashed and hit the ground, and the camera followed the weapon down and back up. So it's like you didn't miss anything.
Right.
As opposed to the fight scenes we're used to seeing where a guy throws a punch and there's 3 cuts to it.
Right. Yeah, this is definitely well shot film. Chang Cheh knew what he was doing, or Che Chang. I always get his name confused because I see it written different ways. It's either Chang Cheh or Che Chang, so I guess you can go with whatever. But yeah, and short acts and long acts, I thought they had great chemistry together, and they were hilarious. They were just really funny.
Oh yeah, they were great. Like the back and forth, the thing that you mentioned earlier about they meet up with the 7 hooks and it's like, well, you killed 3 and I killed 3. And it's like, oh well, let's not be rude.
Yeah.
And they killed the last guy together, and it's like, I like that. I thought that was funny. Like that was that was the intentional comedy.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
And these guys have that chemistry that they're able to do that, and they're very expressive in their facial expressions are very. I don't want to say like over the top or exaggerated, but it definitely accentuates the comedy, and we see Phillip Kwok do that as Haitao, and when he's supposed to be drunk, like I think it's the big opening your eyes really wide as you're saying stuff, and I don't know if it's maybe just like a product of that particular region where they're filming, because I noticed that like Bolo Young would do that all the time in in like any of the films he was in, like Kickboxer, not Kickboxer, Bloodsport. You know,
Oh yeah.
because they dubbed him over in that. Like he always had like the big eyes and like he was very expressive. You know, even when he wasn't speaking.
Right.
You know.
Right. Yeah. That's really cool. And you know, I thought of this earlier. I was going to say, and I forgot. It was when I put on Invincible Shaolin after watching this for the second time. I did notice that the dubbing were the same voices for the same actors. So I thought that was cool. At least it was, even if they didn't quite fit the person's face, I thought it was consistent, and I like that.
Yeah.
So then we've got Iron Robe, who claims not to fight women, and then Hai To intervenes and drives him off, or I think he kills him, right? And then he tells Miss Lang, you know, a man's best friend is wine, and he claims that he fights best when he's drunk. Which, like you said, that was so cool to see the Drunken Master style. I think, have you ever seen the movie Drunken Master with Jackie Chan?
I haven't seen the whole thing, but I've seen like clips of it, you know, in different like documentary style films where they're like talking about either his life or the different films that came out at different times.
Right.
Yeah, there's a movie where I did see drunken style. It's called Sidekicks. It's an old movie with Jonathan Brandis and Chuck Norris.
Yep.
Yeah, and the Jonathan Brandis's father's love interest, her dad runs a Chinese restaurant. And he does like there's a bunch of guys that are like really like racist jerks at the restaurant, and so he comes out like drunken master style, like, spilling hot stuff all over them and like hitting them in the face. And, yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, Phillip Kwok, like you said, he did a great job here with the character. He, although he didn't appear to me, even though the amount that he was drinking in the film, he didn't appear quite so drunk. Like, I don't know. I thought he would have been drunker, but maybe his tolerance was high because he just lived on it.
Yeah, well, that's what he says. I don't drink water. I only drink wine. That's why I didn't get poisoned.
Right. And then I thought it was funny because it's funny the first pass through this film when he goes into the restaurant and Silver Spear and Brasshead obviously have the phony beards, and I'm watching it going, wow, that makeup job's terrible on those guys. Like, you could tell those beards are phony. And then, of course, they were phony. So I was like, okay.
I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, this is awful. Like, I'm like, whatever, I chalked it up to, I'm like, the fake blood just looks like, really thin marinara sauce. So.
Right. I read that they used syrup, and they didn't specifically say Caro syrup, but they used syrup to make the blood effect.
Yeah, I mean, that's, a little bit of food coloring with some, like, Caro syrup is...
Yeah. It's just funny, though. I mean, they definitely lessened it, because this movie was really bloody. And, there was blood everywhere. But, so then the sand palm strike, when the arms come through the wall and hits Lee in the back, and it, like, not only leaves an imprint on his back, like, it removes the layer of the robe that he was wearing in the shape of a hand, leaves an imprint of the hand on his back, and it goes all the way through the front. So he's got an imprint of the hand on his chest as well, which I thought was really cool.
All I could think of was from Invincible Shaolin, when they're showing the training at the beginning, and they have like the two perfect handprints on the training.
I had the same thing. Exactly the same thing that made me think of that. I wonder what that is. If that's something in Chinese lore that people, could do that somehow.
I mean, it's probably based on something. I mean, I know that, when you slap somebody hard enough, like, you'll leave a hand imprint on their back. But I've never slapped somebody hard enough to punch a hole through their shirt and then leave a mark on their chest.
Yeah. And it was cool when Golden Arm, is offering the position to Hai To, and he's contemplating it, and then finally he's like, okay, but I want to be in charge. And he says a second thing, and then he's reaching in his brain for a third thing and doesn't come up with it, and it's like, yeah, that's just it. That's what I want.
Yeah, he's trying to think. He's like, yeah, and I also Yeah, just those
Yeah.
swords. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
One line that Yang said that I thought was kind of cool was the word is that the underworld were scared to attempt to steal the gold because of the Chisar gang. So that sort of, in my mind, that sort of explained away why there were no other highway robbers. It was just the gang because everybody else was afraid of the gang.
Yeah, and they don't want to cross them.
Right. And then they catch a guy hanging out outside, one of the gang members, and so Yang and Fang bring him in, and then they have this discussion about torture and how they really shouldn't torture people. It's not really good, and probably should just kill them.
Yeah, yeah, less worry about vengeance that way.
Yeah, exactly. And then what I thought was funny, and this reminded me of Death Rides a Horse, was somehow the Chisar have a trap door under all the gold. And I was like, no, the trap door again.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have a trap door in. There's at least got to be a trap door somewhere.
Right.
Because if you don't have a trap door, what are you even doing?
Exactly. I wonder if it's like, when they were coming up with the script, like, okay, well, we need a handprint on somebody and a trap door.
Well, I mean, probably what they do is, I imagine they're at a pitch meeting and it's just like, okay, we have the trap door. How do we make a movie around this?
Right.
You start with the trap door and then work the plot around that.
That's awesome. And at first I'm watching it going, wait, this is the bureau. This is their office. How do they not know there was a trap door there? But then afterwards, I guess it was obvious that it was Yang that probably set it up to begin with. But I still don't know how he could have done that without letting anybody else know that there was one there, unless he just paid off the construction workers or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, like, it's not really explained, but it's just, understood that, this guy knew about it, nobody else did, and that's all that matters.
Right, yeah, I'm thinking too hard about it. What I didn't understand, though, on his sword, Yang's sword, he's got a large, like a scimitar almost kind of sword, but then it's got these rings along the non-bladed edge, and I just didn't understand why that was there. Do you think that would throw the balance of the sword off?
No, I think it's all in the different styles that you're going to use, and it's in the especially with Chinese martial arts, things are done a specific way, and the weapons are created a specific way for specific movements. We see the Tai Chi sword that what's his name uses.
Lee.
Oh, I'm drawing a blank. Yeah, the one who got hit with the older brother's slap of death.
Yeah, Lee.
Slap
of death.
Like those are incredibly flexible, and then, but all the other swords that you saw, those were Chinese broadswords.
Right.
And
Okay.
those are typically just used in Kung Fu. And then I don't know the name of the last one with the rings in it, but there's a specific reason for those rings. And I forget what movie. I think it was a Jet Li movie where he was fighting a guy with one of those, and he hooked his finger into him and pulled the sword away from the guy. I was like, you're good, but I don't know if you're that good.
Right.
You could do that against me probably, but not a master. But yeah, it's everything was done and made in a specific way, because you see the weird curvature of the handles, or it's weird. You'll see all the the tassels, or the little flags that are on everything. That's basically used to add extra grip if your weapon gets too bloody.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And you don't want to, when you see the tassels at the end of a Tai Chi sword, that's what that's for. It's for wrapping around the handle so you can get a better grip in case there's too much blood.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. I thought it was funny when Brasshead gets killed. His last words are, "Thank you." Again, he's just this weird Bond villain kind of thing. Is kind of you almost could see that he was going to get killed. Want to be one of the first ones to be killed.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't surprised by that.
Right, because all he can do is headbutt people. But
Mm-hmm.
what I thought was interesting was when they fight, Golden Arm shows up, which I did not expect him to show up right away, and I thought that was interesting. But when they fight him and he beats them with his bare hands, they're shocked by that fact. They're shocked by the fact that he could beat them with his bare hands, but they're not shocked by the fact that he seems impervious to blades. I mean, was that like a common thing?
Yeah, like that's. I mean, I'm familiar with like iron hand technique, where you get microfractures in your bones, so that when they heal, they're calcified over.
Yeah.
So that when that makes them stronger. And I've seen, there was an amazing documentary called Budo: The Art of Killing, and one of these, he was an iron hand master, but he had done it to like all of his entire, like his arms and his legs, and people were like, he'd hold his arm out and somebody smashed a 2x4 over his arm.
Wow.
And you'll see that with some of the Muay Thai guys, because it's a lot of elbow and knee and shin strikes.
Yeah.
Like the microfractures cause everything, like I said, to be calcified and harden the bone. So you can, if you're a Muay Thai expert, you could kick through a baseball bat.
Wow.
And that's one of those things where it's like, even if you block that kick, you're still going to get a significant amount of damage to you, because it's like being hit with a baseball bat.
Right. And that's the thing. It's one thing to hit a wooden weapon, but he's like using it to defend against swords, using his arms, and the swords are just not cutting his skin at all.
Yeah, and that's what I didn't get. I mean, that's where the fantastical element comes in on this, because even the sound effects they used made it seem like it was steel striking steel.
Right.
And gold is a very soft metal. It is not something you're going to build a sword from.
Exactly. Yeah.
You might gold plate a steel sword or an iron sword, but you're not going to make a weapon out of gold. Like that's just crazy talk.
Right. It'd be like making a weapon out of lead. It's just it's too soft. Did you catch the blooper that happened? It was I thought it was a major blooper in the movie when Kimono throws the flare into the air.
No.
You see the flare just sort of stops in the air and it's hovering there, and you could see the wires. It was just so obvious that it was hung by wires. It looked so awful.
I was just I guess I must have just completely missed that.
Yeah. Oh man.
I mean,
you got to go back and look at it.
There were a couple of things that I was like, oh, that looks kind of off. Like, it's almost like they were playing stuff on a screen in the background, and there was a scene with the cart right before everybody rested, and everybody ended up getting poisoned by all the little spikes everywhere.
Yeah.
It's almost like they were standing in front of a screen that had the cart on it, because the cart wasn't moving, but it was almost like they stopped the film, and like there was like that little bit of motion blur, where it's like, yeah, this thing was still moving.
Oh.
When they stopped the film. It might have just been, the transfer or whatever, but it looked like they took a still photo of the cart with the gold, but it was still moving.
Interesting.
In the picture.
Interesting. I'll have to go back and look at that again. I didn't notice that one. That's cool. And then, of course, at the cart, we've got, Haito is fighting, and he jumps over the cart, and Iron Robe follows suit, and he gets a spear to the crotch.
Yeah, that. Oof. And then he pulled it out and killed that last guy.
Right. Oh man, that was brutal. That was really brutal. I couldn't believe they did that.
Well, I mean, it was that or like stab him in the face, and I don't think the Motion Picture Association of China would let them do that. Like that seemed a little much.
I have a feeling that, like, especially when they came to the States, these movies probably didn't get cut too much because nobody was paying attention. They just figured they were stupid kung fu movies, and I think a lot survived when they got shown in theaters here, I would imagine. Then it's interesting, the scene after that arrives at the carriage, and he's talking to himself, and he basically catches us up on the plot. If we were confused up to this point, we are no longer confused. But did you think he knew that Haito was hiding in the bushes? I kind of thought that he was thinking that.
Yeah, it was definitely an exposition dump. And it's like, oh, I wonder who he's talking to. It's like, oh, I'll let them fix the carriage, and then I'll steal the gold later on. Ha ha! And he runs off. It's like,
right.
If he had a mustache, he would have been
I thought it worked, though. It didn't seem like it was forced exposition. I thought it added a little charm to the character and to the movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, nonstop fights throughout the film, too, was just amazing. I was really happy with that because I have a book. It's about the greatest kung fu movies of the 70s and martial arts movies, I should say, and it rates them like what percentage of the film has a fight scene, and this one had 35%.
Yeah, that's pretty. I mean, it was very entertaining. There was a lot of. It's like, oh, here's a little bit of exposition, fight scene. Here's a little bit of plot development, fight scene. Like,
very enjoyable.
Very nice. I enjoyed it a lot. Yeah.
And so then we get to the point where Haito takes Lee to the smoke, which I didn't realize it was a crematorium until I read the plot synopsis from online, but I thought it was just a smokehouse. And did it seem obvious to you that he was putting him in there to just sweat out the poison? Because I kind of thought that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed very obvious to me because, and he's telling the lady there, and he's like, yeah, we're gonna burn him down to his ashes. It's like, you're gonna have a tough time doing that when like the flames are all on like the opposite sides, and he's just like thrown in the middle.
Right.
It's like you just threw him in there. You didn't like build him a pyre and then like light it. Like you just kind of tossed him there.
Right. He was just messing with her, and it was funny because she so easily fell for everything he said.
Yeah, she's like, "Oh, you're such a jerk." He's like, "Haha."
Yeah.
I did like the fact that he promised them like 10 pieces of silver to help him, and then they're like, "Where's our money?" He's like, "Nah, you didn't save me. You saved him. Get the money from him.
Right.
He'll probably give you 100."
That was great, and just the expression on his face when he was like motioning to Lee, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
Oh yeah, and he was mad. He was so mad about it.
Yeah. he was mad for so many different things because he was pissed that now he's in debt to Haito. Pissed because he told the girl that he didn't want to see a doctor and he was going to go out fighting.
Yeah, see, I don't get that. It's like if you get cured, you can fight better, as opposed to like what you did against Silver Spear there, where you're like, "I'll fight you," and fall into the dirt.
Right.
Like,
so then we got the Yang and his men get to the wagon, and then first of all, when you go to sit anywhere, especially like in the woods, don't you look at what you're going to sit on before you sit on it?
Yeah, like, oh, let me just check for poison spikes real quick. Especially in the woods, like I don't want to be sitting on any like poison ivy or anything like that, because that's
animal crap.
Not something you need. Yeah, like, oh, let me just sit on this well-placed log.
Right. So that was kind of a stretch for me, I thought. And then how do you sit down all the way on those spikes? I mean, they're like, what, 4 inches? Wouldn't you, as soon as you felt the pinch, go, what the hell's that? And jump off?
Yeah, I mean, we saw the other guy, like the guy who stepped on it. Like, he died really quickly, but like not without reacting. Like, these other guys didn't die without reacting. Like, they just sat down and they're like, oh, guess I'm dead.
And at first, when the guys are sitting on the log and then they just keel over and there's blood on their butts, I'm like, what the heck? That is just nasty. And then they show the spikes and it was like, oh man, they really enjoy their butt and crotch kills in this movie.
Yeah, it's kind of a disturbing. It's like, what is this trend? What are you going with right now?
Right.
I don't know. Maybe he was just trying to, push the envelope a little bit, see what he could get away with.
Yeah, I would imagine. You know, and the thing that confused me at the time too was like, you know, how did, and they even said it was, how did the Chisan know they were going to stop there for a rest? But
Right.
you know, it's obviously they, you know, what's his name, Yang had it set up.
It's almost like they were trying to set him up as like a supernatural organization.
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of what I was leaning towards when watching the film. But I did think it was really cool when they figured out to tie the wooden planks to the bottom of their feet so they wouldn't step on the spikes. I thought that was very clever.
Yes.
And then Lee gets healed, which was a cool scene where the handprint comes off and he starts to come back to normal. And they let him out. It was kind of interesting that it seemed that Haito knew exactly how long it would take because he's sitting out there drinking the wine, and almost like he looks at his, even though he doesn't have a watch, it was like, you know, he just knew, okay, he's done. And open the door.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was interesting.
Well, you know, that's the power of wine.
Yeah, that's true. Wine is everything. So he finally catches up and he finally joins Yang's party. And I thought it was interesting too with the wine jugs. More wine jugs get smashed, and I thought it was cool. They have these like paper tops on them that are kind of sealed, and it's you basically just poke a hole in the paper and then drink from it. So I thought that was cool. I'd never seen that before.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, it was something new for me, you know, because I hadn't seen that, but it's like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you're specifically supposed to drink like this huge, you know, like 5-gallon thing
right.
of wine.
Yeah, it's meant to be poured into a cup.
Yeah, which is what the little spout was for.
Right. So I just thought that was interesting. It was kind of a neat cultural thing that, you know, we don't have here. Like they could have easily, I guess they could have made lids to go in the jars, but they'd fall off, but the paper stays somehow. So I tried doing a little research onto how they did that, but I couldn't really. I just did a cursory search. I couldn't find anything right away. But it'd be interesting to know what the process was to get the paper to stick to the outer part of the jug.
It's probably some kind of like, you know, resin.
Yeah, that's what I figured, like a glue or something.
Yeah.
Maybe tree sap or something like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say depending on what region and like how much detail is going into it. Because I mean, these weren't like, you know, super. These are just like clay pots essentially.
Right.
You know, they weren't like, you know, just like, oh, let's just, you know, make a bunch of these. You know, they weren't like, you know, very nice stylized like vases or things like that. It's just like, yeah, we're just gonna throw some cheap like rice wine in here or plum wine, and there you go.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't for the aristocracy.
Right. Oh man, and Haito has a cool line where it's almost kind of prescient because I think he's talking to Miss Ling and he says, maybe when the mission is over, we'll all be dead. And I just thought that was kind of a foreshadowing kind of a line, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, not like gloom and doom, but it's just like, you know, we're recognizing our own mortality. It's like, yeah, you know, when this is all over, you know, you and I are going to fight. It's like, who says we're going to be alive? Like, getting a little ahead of yourself.
Right, yeah.
You know, like all those people who are buying 2021 calendars right now. It's like, whoa. Let's get there first.
Oh, that's too funny. I always forget to buy a calendar, and then the year changes, and then by the time I think to buy a calendar, it's too late. I'm like, oh, it's already February. I'm not going to bother buying one.
I mean, I find, you know, we found a sealed calendar the other day. It's like, oh, great. What is it? Oh, 2016. We never opened it.
That's funny. Oh, man. So then one thing that was cool that they kept foreshadowing was his little drinking pouch there, his canteen. They showed it 2 or 3 times throughout the movie that he kept it in his shirt because then he pulls it out here again when they get to the town. And, of course, there's poison everywhere in the town, which, okay, yeah, Yang's good. He set up some stuff, but how did he set all that up? I mean, that was another kind of a stretch, I thought.
Well, I mean, he's got to have accomplices, you know, Golden Arm and whatnot. I will say though that the the torch ring trap was brilliant.
Absolutely. That was so cool. And it was cool that, because as soon as it was High that looked at it, you knew there was something wrong there.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were going to explode.
The fact. See, I did too. Like, or like combust in some way, like cause a fire or whatever.
Right.
I did like the way that they used, it's like, oh, this is how we're gonna do this. It wasn't like, something cheap or, ignoring the laws of physics. It was just like, no, once this expanded, it would fall out, it's almost like it's setting a timer.
Yeah.
Or setting a fuse. And it's like, oh, that's so cool. Like, I really like the way that was done.
Yeah, that was really cool. And it was thrilling, too, as they're in the room and then they had to get out. And just as he closes the door, the pink smoke or whatever it was, hit the poison gas hits the wall. I just thought that was a really cool scene.
I was like, we should probably sleep outside tonight.
Yeah. Where they could potentially sleep on poison needles, but okay.
Yeah.
So then, Haito goes to this restaurant the next day, and he's just sitting there, and the Chisaw show up, and they kill all the people at the restaurant for no reason. I was like, what? They couldn't just make them leave?
Oh, yeah, the silver spear scene.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to have to arrest all of you. And they're like, you're not going to arrest us. Oh, so you're resisting arrest? I guess I'll have to kill you all.
Right.
It's like, that escalated quickly.
Oh, my God. Yeah, it's like, okay, well, all right. That almost seems like, what I said about the writer, what he had seen in China of people getting death sentences for stupid things. I wonder if that was an echo of that in his writing.
Probably, like, they say, you write what you know.
Yeah.
And if there's an experience that you have that I'm sure you can, if you can put it into, a film or something, I'm sure that's part of it.
Yeah. And I just thought that was interesting because at first I was just like, "What the hell?" And then now it kind of makes sense with the writer being who he was. But then High kills one guy with a broken wine jug. He like slices his chest with the ceramic or the pottery, whatever it was. I thought that was kind of gross.
That was a great kill. Like, the guy chopped it in half, and he's like, "Oh, well, I'll just use these to shred your intestines."
Yeah. That was awesome. It worked too because it scared off the other guys. He didn't have to fight them.
Yeah, I mean, he wrecked most of those dudes, but.
And then you get to a scene where they're actually outdoors. They weren't on a set, which I thought was a nice change of pace.
Mm-hmm.
It was very brief, but it was cool to see. I wonder why they did it. If they just didn't have enough indoor set, or it wasn't available that day, or it must have taken a lot to take all the equipment and the actors and get everybody out there just for one scene.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's definitely. Depending on what's going on, like, having a set is easier, especially with some of the acrobatics that were being performed.
Yeah.
Like, you can more easily attach a wire to something in a set.
Right.
If you're outside, it's a little more difficult, but some of the acrobatics that Phillip Kwok did in that final confrontation scene, like the backflips, the springing up off his back, like, oh, it's so cool.
Oh, yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah, it's so clear, too, in these movies, these guys do all their own stunts. There's no stuntmen here, except, with the minions, the henchmen, are pretty much all stuntmen. But these guys, the main actors, they do everything themselves.
Yeah.
So then, Spear and Axe get attacked again. Why haven't we been attacked? And, of course, they get attacked. And Silver Spear fills Yan up with daggers and then kills him. And then him and Short Axe had a really great fight, which he's very athletic, the actor there.
Yeah.
Chang
I will
Cheh.
say, though, that that move by Silver Spear was just the biggest punk move. It's like, oh, he's distracted. Let me just chuck daggers at his back. What a scumbag.
And then Fang gets sucker speared from behind too. I was like, you bastard. These guys are always talking about honor and stuff, and yet they're stabbing people in the back left and right.
Yeah. It's... That was like the one part that I kind of felt was a little inconsistent with the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
But I guess, it's just, we need a way to kill these guys off, and they're clearly more skilled. So, and we can't have, Golden Arm beat everybody, and then, have Hightow just, come in and beat him one-on-one.
Yeah, that's true. But it was the whole scene where Fang and Silver Spear, they look like they're dead, but then then it looked like they were gonna go back in and fight again. It was sort of like the last movie where, oh well, I've been mortally wounded, but I'm still gonna fight you. But then they just drop dead on the ground, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah, like that's another one of those unintentional comedy things.
Yeah,
it's like they both took spears through the gut, and they're like, "Ha! I will still fight you." Oh, I'm dead.
Yeah. And that's one thing that Fang's death made me think of is that in these movies, no one's safe. It's even though they're recurring action stars, like we have Stallone and Schwarzenegger and them. In these movies, there's no guarantee that any of them are going to make it out of the film alive.
Right. It's like just because you're on the movie poster doesn't mean you're going to make it to the end. Like, you watch a Stallone or a Schwarzenegger movie. It's like, yep. Okay, well, I know who's making it through the entire film.
Right.
Like, no matter what happens, like there's a running joke about the Fast and Furious series where it's like, there's no need to ever worry about anyone in peril. It's like, oh, I just drove my car, off a cliff and it exploded 6 times, but oh, my shirt's a little dirty.
Right.
Like there's no need to worry about the principal actors because nothing is ever going to happen to them.
Right, exactly. Oh my God, that's so funny. Golden Arms has a great line when he shows up at a later point. He goes, "I don't need a weapon. My arms always stay with me." Well, duh.
Until you get your arms cut off, then what?
Right.
Although I guess that can't happen. And he would be literally and figuratively disarmed.
Yeah, and when he's fighting Lee, and I thought because they made a specific point to show a close-up shot of Lee's sword on Golden Arm's arm, and I thought he was going to cut off his golden wristbands, and that would take away his power, but that didn't actually happen. So
yeah, I mean, that definitely crossed my mind as well. It's like, oh, is this how he loses? What is this ability that he has? Like, how is this? It's never explained.
No.
And even, he's clearly, the best fighter of the entire group, because even after being blinded, he's pretty much unbeatable.
Right. And the thing that blew me away, the scene, was when he's fighting Lee, he wraps his arm around Lee's sword, and then he takes it and corkscrews it into Lee. I was like, that totally blew me away.
Yeah, first wrapping it, like I said, Chinese Tai Chi swords are very pliable, but not that pliable. They're not slap bracelets.
Right.
He wrapped it around his arm so he could pull it away from him, and then unwrapped it, twisted it into a corkscrew, and just ice drilled it through his stomach. It's like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's not getting back into the sheath at this point.
Right. And after all that, getting rid of the poison, he gets corkscrewed by a sword. What the fuck?
It's like, oh, I'm so glad I don't have to worry about this poison anymore. And then he steps out and gets hit by a bus.
But that, I have to say, I've never seen anything like that before in a movie. I thought that was very, very well done, even though it's, not very plausible.
Right. Again, you have to take some of this stuff with, a grain of salt where it's, a guy does like these, although in this movie it wasn't as bad as Invincible Shaolin where, the acrobatics were like Matrix level.
Right.
It's like, oh, I'm going to do 12 backflips before hitting the ground.
It's funny. A lot of the stunt coordinators, I think there was one major stunt coordinator that worked on a lot of these films, and he was an advisor on the Matrix movies, particularly the first one.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, because obviously, where do you go when you want to do a lot of cool wire work? You go to the people that invented it.
Right. You go to the source.
And then it was interesting when it just comes down to, like, Miss Lee is standing there, and I don't understand. I mean, I understand why he did it, but it was just bizarre, where Haito has this long bamboo pole, and he puts it up to near her ear, and he's just whispering to her.
It's like, dude, you're 3 feet away.
I know.
Like that, yeah, that to me was a bit extra.
That again seemed like something like, oh, they've got this bamboo pole. What we got this bamboo pole. What can we do with it?
Yeah, I thought like he might like fight with it or something.
Right.
It's like, oh, what's the significance of this bamboo pole? It's like, oh, he's just telling her something from, and it's like, oh, I'm trying to remain inconspicuous, and it's like with a giant pole sticking up out of the water. Like, what?
No one will notice this pole here. So then we finally get what we've been waiting for. Haito and Golden Arm face off. And I was very happy when they finally got to this point because I've been looking forward to watching the two of them go at it. And, Yang gives Haito his sword, and Arm just shatters it.
Yeah, like he breaks it up like, like you're shattering, an ice cream cone. He just like grabs it and crushes it up and just like, it's like, wow, that was pretty impressive. Then he used like those little hooks that kept like like the chain on them kept expanding.
Right. Those were so cool.
I really did like the scene. They did it in slow motion where he was swinging the chain around and Golden Arm would jump and then like he would like almost like push himself off the ground in a push-up position to get, to have it swing underneath of him.
Yeah, and it was interesting too because it seemed like they had two different levels of extension. He could do it like about 3 feet and then 6 feet, whatever whatever he needed, and I thought that was really awesome.
It was really cool, and it was one of those like surprise weapons almost, like with Silver Spear earlier when he was able to extend and retract the spear.
Right, that was really cool. And so you got to figure he had now the summary that I read that, like I said, I found online. It just says he spits wine in Haito's face. I'm sorry, in Arms' face, but that wouldn't blind you permanently. I was under the impression that he had poisoned the wine because he claimed to be impervious to poison anyways. So he had poisoned wine in his mouth, and obviously he had to keep it in his mouth during the whole fight scene. So then he could spit it into Haito's face. I mean, Golden Arms' face. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I thought it was poison too. I mean, like, if someone spit wine into my face, I don't think my eyes would bleed and I would be instantly blind.
Right.
Like, I just assumed it was poison because he was like, I drank 20 bottles of wine yesterday with, antidote pills in them. It's like, well, I hope it was the right antidote, like, because if he's using hemlock, the antidote to, say, strychnine isn't going to help you. Or
right.
If it's, cyanide, like, I don't know what's going to help you with that.
Yeah. So it definitely had to be, poisoned wine in his mouth, which again was, that's a feat in and of itself, trying to do all those acrobatics and fight moves and not spit out what's in your mouth.
Yeah, like that to me was fairly impressive.
Then we get Iron Feet shows up. And this confused the heck out of me. I didn't get that Iron Feet and Yang were not necessarily the same person, but it was the same actor.
Yeah.
So it confused me. So they were working together, but they didn't say they were twin brothers or anything. They just happened to look alike.
Yeah, and like I think it would have made more sense had it just been the one guy and he, took off his red outfit and is like, haha, I'm actually the bad guy. Like, that would have made way more sense than, oh, I've been hiding in this chest of gold the whole time. It's like you, like, curled yourself up into a little ball and, like, now you're just, like, walking with a bounce in your stuff. Like, how are you, like, that pliable and stretched out and ready to go after being crammed into a container?
Right.
Like, I don't get that.
Oh, man. So, yeah, like I said, I had to do a little research to figure out who he actually was. But even still, all right, so Yang and Iron Feet look identical. Wouldn't Golden Arm have, when he saw Yang, have said, hey, wait a minute, aren't you Iron Feet?
Yeah, right? Like, hey, I know you. It's like,
right. No, I just look like him.
no, it's my cousin. I'm regular feet. He's Iron Feet. But it did remind me a lot of his, the character in the last one, Invincible Shaolin, that had like the special kicking ability.
Right. And then Golden Arm just comes up and just punches right through him from behind. Yeah. But,
well, yeah, because
that was really cool.
Because he was blind and he could hear, because he had the showdown with Iron Feet while, what's his name, is sitting there pretending like, oh no, I'm dead because I got slashed in the side on a surprise attack.
Right, yeah.
But it's like, no, your wineskin got slashed. But
right.
he was, and like when you find that out, because you're like, all right, he's acting like he just got slashed in the side, but it's like, no, it's just your wine. All right, you're being way over dramatic here.
Right. I think he did that on purpose to see what would happen in the fight.
And it was definitely very interesting because Iron Feet would then stop, like when he figured out, and this was a cool thing. Like I didn't know Phillip Kwok could wiggle his ears the way he did.
Yeah.
It
was Lo Meng.
Yeah, Lo Meng. Sorry, not Phillip Kwok.
Yeah.
To be able to like wiggle his ears that way to hear what was going on because he was blind, and he was able to still fight. And that to me was some of the best choreography, like because he's fighting blind,
right?
Or with his eyes closed.
And that was just an amazing scene overall, because especially they had this like eerie music when Iron Feet finally figures out to just not move, then he can't hear where I'm at. And Golden Arm's just trying to figure out where he is, like you said, using his ears. And just the music that was playing there was really eerie. Mm-hmm. And I just thought it worked so well.
Yeah, and then he kicked him in the back. And then uses the exact same thing, because while he's fighting Phillip Kwok, he ends up stumbling backwards right at Golden Arm, who punches right through his stomach, which I thought was nuts. And then we get another one of those unintentional comedy things, like, thank you for showing mercy and not killing me. I guess I'll just live out the rest of my days in quiet solitude. Knife through the chest. It's like... it's like as soon as he says it. It's like...
his death scene was so overly dramatic because it reminded me of I don't know if you ever saw the Gilligan's Island episode where Ginger was trying to teach Gilligan how an actor does a death scene, and she's going, I'm dying. That was like, that's all I could think of when he's like, he was basically doing that, even though he wasn't saying that. That's the impression I got.
Yeah, that was like the most over the top. It's like it looked like he was fighting a swarm of invisible bees. Like,
right.
But it was one of those, it was like, I guess I'll just, live out my days. It's like, the death sentence for a cop. Oh, I'm only 2 days left from retirement.
Yeah. Oh my God. But yeah, I really love this movie. It was very different than the previous films that we've covered, but it was just thoroughly enjoyable and fast-paced and entertaining. With the characters were entertaining. It wasn't very confusing. once you get past the fact that an English person dubbed their voices, you realize that these guys were not only great martial artists, but they were good actors as well.
Yeah, and I think it's the Chinese actors are much better than the American actors, to be honest with you.
Right. I think that's hurt a lot of foreign films in the past with bad dubbing, especially like the giant monster movies to come out of Japan and stuff. It's people poo-poo them because, it's terrible acting. Well, no, it's terrible dubbing.
Yeah, it's not their fault. Like, you're trying to match the dialogue to the mouth movements of an actor speaking in a different language.
It's not like animation where they can digitally manipulate the mouth so that it, more closely matches the English language.
Yeah.
So, final thoughts, Pat, on Kid with the Golden Arms.
I really liked it. I definitely recommend this if you are a fan of martial arts films, especially if you are a fan of the films that came out in the 60s and 70s. This is a well done film. It was well choreographed. It had an interesting story. I think I liked this one better than Invincible Shaolin.
Oh yeah,
mainly because it didn't have the subplot of all the guys trying to hook up with the girls at the fruit stand, which I just thought was superfluous.
Right.
I liked this one a lot, and I definitely recommend it.
Excellent. I recommend it too. And I think so, moving forward for our purposes, since we've familiarized ourselves with these actors and Chang Cheh, I think we're going to continue, and we should continue doing more of the Venom Mob movies. We should just cover them all first before we start to expand out, because if we go out and watch a different film with different actors and different cast and crew, it might confuse us if we then decide to come back to these films. So I think we should stay on this path. We'll backtrack a few movies and continue on doing the Venom Mob films. Does that sound good?
Oh yeah. These are quality movies.
Excellent. Okay, folks. Well, we're going to take a break here, and when we come back, we're going to do the spaghetti western, A Pistol for Ringo.
Hello, this is Rod Barnett. I'm the host of The Bloody Pit, the podcast that examines films from across the decades. On The Bloody Pit, we have several ongoing series of shows within the show focused on specific things in genre cinema that I and my co-hosts find fascinating. There's a long-running series focused on Italian maestro Antonio Margheriti's films from the 1960s all the way up through 1990. There's an on-again, off-again series focused on 1970s science fiction films. There's an in-depth look at the Western movies that William Castle made before he struck out on his own and became the horror auteur that we know and love. A look at the classic Coffin Joe films from Brazil. And our long-term project to look at every Universal horror film made in the 1940s. That's a long project, people. It's going to take us a long time. Sprinkled in amongst those are various other episodes focused on other stranger areas of cinema, like Lucio Fulci, Dario Argento, and even some obscure British crime films from time to time. So join me and my rotating crew of co-hosts as we examine the stranger side of cinema through an exploitation lens. Except when we don't. Yeah, you never really know exactly what to expect on The Bloody Pit. So join me for The Bloody Pit.
Prepare for a spine-tingling, nerve-shattering podcast featuring all your favorite monsters. You won't believe your ears when you listen to Monster Kid Radio. Hear your host, Derek M. Cook, and his ever-rotating stable of guests discuss your favorite classic and sometimes not-so-classic monster movies. Subscribe to Monster Kid Radio through iTunes or Stitcher, or visit monsterkidradio.net before the next weekly episode of Monster Kid Radio. Go through the archives for interviews with Sarah Karloff, Victoria Price, and Joel Hodgson. Listen to discussions about movies like Creature from the Black Lagoon, Island of Terror, and King Kong. And don't forget convention coverage from Monster Bash and the H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival. Classic monsters, modern talk, and ahead of Rondo Hatton, only on Monster Kid Radio!
Okay, next up we have the spaghetti western, A Pistol for Ringo from 1965. This movie was near the beginning of the spaghetti western explosion and actually has characteristics that sort of go against what had already been set up in these kinds of movies. For example, like with A Fistful of Dollars from 1964. This is one of those movies, Pat, that there are a ton of sequels to, like the Django movies or Sabata. The only official sequel to this movie is called The Return of Ringo, with the director and actor reprising their roles. Well, the director directing it and Giuliano Gemma reprising his role as Ringo. But there's a slew of other films with the word Ringo in the title. And it was pretty common practice back then to basically, you try to fool people into thinking a movie is somehow related to the popular original. So if you just throw Ringo in the title, even if it has nothing to do with Ringo, people will go see it because they think it has something to do with Ringo. And they did that a lot with, like, the Django movies. There's, like, 27 Django movies and only one official sequel that happened in the 80s.
Yes.
This is a story of the famed angel-faced mercenary of the West, Ringo.
If you can get it back and save the hostages, you get 10%.
It's a matter of principle. Never enter into a deal for less than 30%.
You looking for Angel Face, is that right? Well, you found him, I reckon. 'Cause I'm Angel Face. See how this one man, with nerves of steel, outwits and outmatches a whole implacable band of outlaws.
All right. You know how to shoot, but not how to kill.
A pistol for Ringo.
Well, take it or leave it. You got until tomorrow morning to give me your answer. God created men equal. Six God made them different. Like I said, now all we have to do is get going. Adios, amigo. It ain't 40%. It's 50% now.
Once again, he is pitted against odds and faced with one of the most bloodthirsty band of outlaws the West has ever known. They caused havoc and destruction wherever they set foot, but no one dared stand in their way. No one could stop them until Ringo, starring Montgomery Wood as Ringo, with Fernando Sancho, Hallie Hammond, Nieves Navarro, Antonio Casas, George Martin. A pistol for Ringo. Ringo, cool-eyed, quick draw, fastest gun of the West, will thrill you in one of the most dramatic, blood-tingling episodes of his career. Directed by Lucio Tessari. See this thrill-packed, fast-moving Western. Don't miss A Pistol for Ringo.
Sir Richard Starkey, who won the most excellent order of the British Empire, is better known by his stage name of Ringo Starr. Oh wait, no, that's the wrong guy. That's a different Ringo. I had to do that. I'm sorry. That's this 1965 film opens as Sheriff Ben, who is portrayed by George Martin, discusses the Benson gang and his associate, I believe it was Tim. He learns that they were all released and are on their way to confront our protagonist, the gunfighter known as Angel Face, or Ringo, played by, as you mentioned, Giuliano Gemma, but also credited as Montgomery Wood. But if you do a search on either IMDb or Wikipedia for Montgomery Wood, there's no official listing, and it comes up as Giuliano Gemma, which I thought was interesting. He kills the 4 men in a gunfight, if you can call it a gunfight. He was playing hopscotch with some kids, and the guys showed up, and he said, if you step over that wall, you're going to get a bullet in the face, and they stepped over the wall, and so they got bullets in their faces. Just as Sheriff Ben arrives to arrest him for manslaughter, despite the fact that he claimed self-defense. We then meet our antagonist, Sancho, played by Fernando Sancho. Hopefully he was able to remember that name. He gets confronted by a couple of cavalrymen who tell him he is crossing the border and to head back home. Sancho kills them both and then signals his gang to follow him. We see a woman wearing a black veil amidst the rest of the banditos. Back in town, we meet Ruby, played by Lorella DeLuca, at a general store, and we get a bit of exposition and learn that as Sheriff Ben comes in and smooth talks her, we learn that they're engaged. She's bought him a present, and her father is Major Clyde, Antonio Casas, and there's an upcoming bachelor party, and they're going to be drinking Dom Perignon 84, so I'm assuming this takes place shortly after the turn of the century, early 1900s. We then see the various members of Sancho's gang setting up in strategic locations all around the town, and the black-veiled woman is taken off to see the sheriff. Gang robs the bank, kills a few people there, and the black-veiled woman is revealed to be Dolores, played by Nieves Navarro, and she is in on the robbery, and thanks to her long-winded and meandering tale of bad men attacking her family, she was able to distract the sheriff long enough for the heist to go down. And they only are alerted to it when the dynamite used to open the safe explodes. She holds everyone in the jail, or the sheriff's office, I guess, even though there is a small jail, and that's where Ringo is, playing cards with Tim. Holds them at gunpoint. The gang pulls up. She's able to, hop onto the carriage, and they all escape. And there's a bit of a shootout as we see some of the classic tropes of westerns, a guy getting shot off a roof and falling, another guy getting shot and falling over a railing that just is so rickety that if you lean against it, you're going to fall off it whether you're shot or not. And Sheriff Ben is able to wound Sancho by shooting him in the shoulder. And there is a little bit of an inconsistency with this, because we later see Sancho with a wound on a bullet hole in the back of his jacket, which indicates that the bullet went all the way through, but the bullet has to be removed. We'll get to that after. We then see the bandits narrowly escape. A couple of guys get killed, and one guy suggests that they follow Sancho's own advice and leave him because he's wounded. Sancho responds by shooting the man in the face and says, no, you didn't learn enough from me, or you learned too much from me, depending on the translation, and continues to carry the $50,000 that they had stolen. Now, I was a little curious. I did some research on how much $50,000 weighs, and if it was all in 20s, it would only weigh about 5.5 pounds. So, because I was like, this guy's got a busted up shoulder and he's got to hang on to the horse. How is he also holding on to $50,000? But 5 pounds isn't bad.
Wow.
So they find a small like ranch or a hacienda, and it just so happens to be the hacienda where Major Clyde and Ruby live. The bandit gang storms the hacienda and takes them hostage. Sheriff Ben and his men are right behind them, and there's a short shootout, and they have to withdraw because too many guys are getting killed out in the open, and so they kind of fall back while the banditos, led by Sancho and Dolores, end up taking all the hostages. Now, Sancho is very interested in getting out of the situation alive, rounds up all the people who work there, all the servants, the stable people, the servers, the wait staff, like they're not given any specific titles, but everybody who works in the stables, the sheep herders, all that, tells Sheriff Ben, and they are able to yell across what seems to be like a mile of land and hear each other perfectly fine. He tells them, he's like, either you let me go to the border or I'm going to execute 2 people a day, 1 in the morning, 1 at night. Here's the first one. Shoots them and sends them off on a horse, which doesn't make sense because you'd want to keep the horses for your escape, but that's what they do. So while the house is surrounded by a posse that's led by Sheriff Ben, he fears for the safety of the hostages, including, obviously the one that just got shot, but most importantly, Ruby and her father. If he knows that if he attempts to free them by force, a lot of people are going to die, including the hostages. There is a guy with them. I'm not sure what his title is or maybe he's the mayor. I don't know. But he's kind of a jerk because all he cares about is getting the money back and making sure that the banditos are dead, and doesn't really care about the collateral damage. And you have to wonder if Sheriff Ben would be overly concerned if it hadn't been his lady friend and her dad. So Sheriff Ben tells his compadre Tim, I believe his name is, to go back to town and get anybody who can shoot a gun, including Ringo. Ringo is interested in helping, but not for free. And as he states several times during the film, everything he does is a matter of principle. So as a matter of principle, he needs 30% of the money that was stolen, which would amount to $15,000, which is a small fortune back in the early 1900s. And at first, Sheriff Ben is unwilling to do so, but eventually says, all right, that's fair. The bank will get back 70% of the money, even if we give this guy 30, fine. And then Ringo says, okay, but I also want my trial to happen now. Sheriff Ben says, no, your trial will happen after you get back. And Ringo's like, no, I don't really trust you, so we're going to do it now. So the judge is there, and they basically go through like a sham trial and find Ringo innocent of everything. All the charges are cleared against him, and they let him out. And Ringo refuses a gun, so he's able to successfully join up with the Bandito gang, posing as a fellow outlaw. Now, lending credence to this was the fact that Dolores already saw him in the jail. And no one else could really go and infiltrate the gang because Dolores had seen who the sheriff was and who all his friends were. She even killed one of them. So he is able to earn the trust of the gang by saying, hey, I was in jail, I escaped, well, how'd you escape? Well, I made a deal with the sheriff, but I'm definitely double-crossing him because he threw me into jail for a misunderstanding. And further ingratiates himself by not bringing a gun, despite the fact that he is a very talented gunfighter, and then is able to remove the bullet from Sancho's shoulder. Then gives him a plan about how they're going to escape, but demands 40% of the loot, which Sancho agrees to, but only because he's planning on double-crossing Ringo. Now, Ringo has a plan in mind of how he's going to do this. He's going to take his time. He's going to get everything all his ducks in a row and make sure that they're able to ensure the safety of as many people as possible. But he witnesses one of the executions, and he's like, boy, that isn't right. And kind of, Ruby doesn't like the way he says that. She's like, that's all you have to say? He's like, well, what do you want me to do? Like, I don't have a gun. I can't kill everybody. Like, I'm not going to say it's good, but, she's kind of frustrated by him. And there's a little bit of tension between Ruby and Ringo throughout the rest of the film, but not as much as Dolores and Major Clyde. Major Clyde, his wife had died many, many years ago, and he's been alone ever since. While Ruby was growing up, and Dolores is a nice-looking woman, and so he is hitting on her non-stop. And like, this dude is a smoothie. And she eventually, kind of falls for him. Like, she sees what a gentleman he is and how nice he is and how well he treats her compared to Sancho. And because she's supposed to be Sancho's lady, but Sancho's like a big old jerk. And things escalate. There's a bunch of double crosses and triple crosses, and you really never know where Ringo's loyalties lie until the very end of the film. And I enjoyed this one so much. It was the version I watched, which is probably the version you watched, was all in Italian with subtitles, and even I could tell that this was dubbed in Italian poorly, because like it did not match up with what these people were saying.
Right? Yeah. Like I said, I think last episode, whenever they made these movies, they just didn't record any sound, and they would dub in the voices and sound effects afterwards. Now, I wanted to quickly answer your question about his Montgomery Wood, and I've got it here. It's a book I have called Any Gun Can Play, The Essential Guide to Euro Westerns, and it says here, now the actor who played Ringo was Giuliano Gemma, and the director was Duccio Tessari. So Giuliano Gemma, the athletic young star of Sons of Thunder, gladly seized the chance to work with Tessari again, although American actor Robert Woods says that he was the first choice for the role of Ringo, not Gemma. Woods turned it down owing to a prior falling out with Alfonso Balcazar, with whom he'd previously made the popular film $5,000 on the Ace in '64. And now this is the American actor Robert Woods saying, Duccio Tessari came and asked me if I would do it, but it was with Alfonso, and I said no way. So they got Giuliano Gemma and changed his name to Montgomery Wood because of me. And then he continues to say that Giuliano even admits freely that if Tessari could have taken me, he probably would have, but Giuliano, had a huge success after that movie. So that's why he's called Montgomery Wood.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got confused because I was, doing my research to put the summary together. I couldn't find him credited as Montgomery Wood anywhere, except in like a couple of like disambiguations.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting.
So they basically just changed his name to piss off Robert Woods.
Yeah. Yeah, as you do.
Yeah, this was my first time viewing. I really enjoyed it too. I did watch it on Prime, although halfway through I got up and looked at my DVD shelf because I was pretty sure I had it on DVD, and I did, and it was actually an English dub, but the quality was lesser. It was widescreen, but the widescreen was smaller in the TV screen for some reason. So I just stuck with the Prime version. I was gonna, if I had time, I would have watched the DVD version just to see if there was any differences, but I didn't get a chance to do that. But I did notice, I do speak some limited Italian, and I noticed sometimes the subtitles weren't exactly saying what they were saying, but it was getting the point across. So, for example, in the English subtitle, a character would tell another character, "You're not very bright," but in Italian, it's basically saying, "You're stupid," or "You're an idiot."
Yeah. Yeah, it's they used idiot a lot, but they didn't use the word idiot in the dialogue track.
Right.
But that's going to happen. Like sometimes, like we talked about with a couple weeks ago about the different idiomatic expressions. There are things that you'd say in English that don't translate into other languages, and vice versa. So there's always that little bit of lost in translation.
Yeah. Overall, I thought the subtitling was well done, though.
Yeah, it's not like I was like, oh, I don't know what's going on with this movie. I can't follow it at all. No, it was pretty spot on. Like, and if the words aren't exactly, they don't exactly match up, it's fine as long as you can understand what's going on.
Right. Now, we talked about Duccio Tessari. He both wrote and directed this film. He also directed the sequel, The Return of Ringo. It was a well-known screenwriter, and he worked with the two Sergios, Sergio Leone on The Colossus of Rhodes and Sergio Corbucci on Romulus and Remus. Those were from 60 and 61. So he'd been around for a while, and he kind of knew what he was doing. We'll get into it a little bit more about how he sort of changed things with this movie. But like we said, we've got Giuliano Gemma, or a.k.a. Montgomery Wood, as Ringo. And instead of playing a silent, serious hero who's unshaven, guzzles whiskey, and wears a poncho, Ringo's clean-shaven. He wears a suit similar to that worn by Gary Cooper in High Noon, and he drinks milk instead of whiskey. He was also in Battle of the Worlds in 61, The Return of Ringo in 65, and Day of Anger with Lee Van Cleef in 67. And he also played the detective in Dario Argento's film Tenebra. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that was the second of the Three Sisters movie.
Exactly, yep.
What I found interesting about Ringo's character is he's very much an anti-hero.
Right.
He's not, he's dressed mostly in black. He's looking out for what's best for him. Like, you don't know where his allegiances truly lie until, the very end of the film, like we said. And, he went back and forth. He's very smooth. He's very confident. Like I said, there's some tension between him and Ruby, but, I don't think it's, it's not real. It's all manufactured,
Right. Like, he didn't really seem, I think he didn't seem like he was interested in her, although I don't think if she made advances on him, he would turn her away. But he seemed more like he was just sort of trying to be a sympathetic ear in his own, in his own way.
Well, especially because of was it Pedro?
Oh yeah.
He
was just creepy. So, and speaking of the sheriff, who was Ruby's fiance, we've got George Martin played him, and he plays it like the stereotypical Hollywood Western hero. He's got 40 credits to his name, including The Return of Ringo in 65, Island of the Doomed in 67, and a movie called Kiss Kiss Bang Bang from 67, which also starred Giuliano Gemma. And what I found really interesting about looking into George Martin's career, he played a superhero in a couple of Italian superhero movies. I guess there was a string of them, and he was in particularly it's about these three Supermen, and it's called, the two movies he was in was called Three Supermen in Tokyo and Three Supermen in the West. And I think I've seen one of them because they were produced with different companies. I'm sorry, different countries collaborated and produced these movies. So there's a Turkish one that I think I have on a multi-pack set or something that I've seen, but I don't know if he's in that. But they're definitely whacked out. Something to be checked out because they're just so interesting.
Oh yeah, some of these superhero films from other countries are absolutely bonkers. Like there's an Indian version of Spider-Man that's just like insane, where he grows to like hundreds of feet tall. It's nuts.
Oh, that's the Japanese one, yeah.
Oh, the Japanese one. Okay, I know there's an Indian one and there's a Japanese one, and like I kind of overlap them because they're both like so bonkers and like are not even. I don't know what superhero he's supposed to be, but he's wearing a Spider-Man costume.
Yeah,
but like does none of the things that Spider-Man can do.
And he turns giant.
But they're super fun. And then you have, of course, Turkish Star Wars, which is just...
I was just going to mention that.
I will say this: there is a dub of the Revenge of the Sith, and it's called Backstroke of the West. and it's, every time I think of subtitles and how poorly dubbed things are, this comes to mind. Like, the scene at the end where, Vader gets up off the medical platform for the first time and screams no in that James Earl Jones voice.
Right.
Well, the translation didn't quite come through, and obviously it's not James Earl Jones, but it's someone saying, "Do not want." But the whole movie is like that. Like,
wow.
You can almost understand, like, if you've seen the movie and you know it, like, you can understand kind of where they're going. But there's a part where Obi-Wan's like, "Do you fuck on I?" It's like, what? And, like, they're at the beginning in the space battle, and it's like, what does that mean? There's nothing that gives you any context for, like, what he's talking about.
That's hilarious.
Like, yeah, I highly recommend it. It's the entire movie. It's on YouTube. But, like I was saying, when it comes to these translations, being like, oh, he said he was stupid, but in the subtitle it's idiot, that's different, but
right.
It's not quite as bad as going from no, like this emotional, pained no, to do not want. Like, it's like the meaning is almost the same. Like, you can make the case that that's not a terrible translation, but at the same time, like, your reaction to it was my reaction to it. It's like, what?
Do not want.
Do not want.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I highly recommend checking that out. Backstroke of the West.
Is that dubbed? So it's dubbed into English?
Yeah, it's okay. Dubbed and subtitled. It's called Backstroke of the West, The Third Gathers.
That's hilarious. And that's an actual translated movie from a different country. It's not like a goof that someone made.
Right. It's someone translated it into another country, but they're speaking English.
Right. Oh, wow. That's weird.
So, like, all the voices are dubbed over in English, but they're dubbed over from, someone ran it through Google Translate 5 or 6 times and then translated it into English. So it's like, it went from, French to Spanish to Korean to Japanese to Russian back to English, and this is what we came up with. But
that's hilarious.
Absolutely bonkers, and it's so much fun. Just like, click around to different scenes, find your favorite scene, and it's just like, oh, like any emotional impact that it had gets taken right out. And and it's funny because, like, we watch, these Shaw Brother films or these, spaghetti westerns, and you're expecting, like, that's the stereotypical, like, I'm expecting to see, like, these ridiculous dubs like you'd see in, like, the old Godzilla movies where people are laughing and the laugh track stops, but, like, the people are still laughing on screen. Right. What they're saying just does not match up. It's like, do you want this? No. But, like, the guy's mouth continues moving for another 3 seconds. Like, that's what you're expecting with these movies, but they're not like that. They're so well done. I mean, granted, like we said with the Shaw Brothers films, it's like you see this big burly guy and he's got, like, this high-pitched Tiny Tim voice. Like, that's a little off-putting. But the dubs and the subtitles are done well.
Yes. Yeah. And
so that was kind of like the whole point that I was making with that movie.
No, that was awesome. I got to go and check that out now. It's going to be my new favorite. So we've got an actor named Fernando Sancho that plays Sancho. And he's a Spanish actor. He's been in a ton of spaghetti westerns, so we'll probably encounter him again in the future. Now we have Neves Navarro, who played Dolores. She's, of course, the girlfriend of Sancho at first. And I thought she was smoking hot. She was just beautiful. And she's also in The Return of Ringo, but she plays a different character. And she's also in the movie that I mentioned that George Martin was in called Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. And when I looked it up, I guess that's it's a spy spoof kind of movie. But it's got pretty much the same cast and director as this movie. So I feel like we're going to have to check that out on Then Is Now at some point because it looks really interesting. But Neves Navarro, she's been in quite a few exploitation movies, including All the Colors of the Dark in 1972, Death Walks at Midnight, also in 1972, Black Emmanuel, White Emmanuel in 1976, and Joe D'Amato's Emmanuel and the Last Cannibals, also known as Trap Them and Kill Them from 1977. So she's got quite the career there.
Yeah, and definitely a lot of different aspects of go from a spaghetti western to a cannibal horror type movie.
Right. And she was really good in this. It was funny because you didn't like her as a character at first, and then the more the major kind of softened her up, the more her character became interesting. And especially, like, even though her and Ruby sort of had this sort of antagonistic relationship, I think ultimately she would have protected her.
Yeah, and she kind of did. Like, she did with the Pedro thing.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, she definitely had, like, this air of, like, powerful, independent woman. And based on her look, I kind of got, like, a Morticia Addams type vibe. Like, if you threw Morticia Addams into a Western, that's kind of how I would describe her. Although the first thing I thought of was her character being named Dolores, and the first thing I thought of was Westworld. With Evan Rachel Wood's character.
Oh, the TV show?
Also being named Dolores.
I haven't seen that yet.
It's excellent, but like that's the first thing I thought of because she had like a similar type story on the show. Of, like, who her character was.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's another one that's on my list to watch is Westworld. I've seen the movie, but I haven't watched the show yet.
Westworld and Future World. Those are good ones.
That's right, yeah. Then we've got Antonio Casas as Major Clyde. I kind of recognized him. It took me a while till I had to really look it up, but he's also in The Return of Ringo, but he was in a bunch of spaghetti westerns. Most notably, he was in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly from 1966, and that will be covered on a future episode. But he was pretty good. I liked the juxtaposition of how, he's being held hostage, but he's totally well-mannered and polite, and he it's almost like welcomes them into the home, and that throws the bad guys off. I think they weren't prepared to deal with that.
He even says to Sancho, "It's like, oh, you're injured, so you'll be a guest. You'll be treated like a guest." And it's like,
yeah.
And he maintains this, like, trying to articulate my thought here, like, he's so level-headed and like just keeps this air of neutrality almost, even as they're like executing his workers, which might be a commentary on how his workers, who all looked very Mexican,
right,
and he obviously was not Mexican. He was supposed to be playing an American, but like this commentary on how richer Americans viewed both women and Mexicans at the time. I mean,
he didn't seem overly concerned for his.
No,
staff.
it was just he was probably thinking, oh well, I can get more. I'll get more workers.
Right,
and it's definitely a contrast to. Like it seems to me that the only thing that he cares about is, getting Dolores, and it's like he's unconcerned about anything else. Like these guys are shooting, firing guns off in his living room, and smashing all his plates and his dishes and stuff, and like they're dancing on the table and wrecking everything, and it's just like, ooh, take this. This is the good brandy. Like,
right?
What? And like,
not the reaction I was expecting out of his character.
No, even when they're like, oh, Ringo, drink all this whiskey, and they pour it into like what looks like some sort of trophy for horse racing, but it's probably like a fancy spittoon, and he just like pours it out onto the rug, and it's like, this is like the early 1900s. Like, you can't just like, oh, I spilled something on my rug. Well, I guess I'll just have someone ship me another one from, wherever. And it's like, no, like like your neighbors are 12 miles away. Like, we see this like farmhouse, and there's nothing but like desert and like in every direction. Like, they have to ride on a horse for like an hour in order to get there from the closest town.
Right.
Like, there's not even any train tracks. There's nothing there. It's like, yes, please, ruin everything that I own. Ha ha. My gun is hidden in the chimney. And you knew the gun was coming back into play.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, my God. That was so funny. And that whole scene with the trophy was hilarious, too, which we'll get to in a little bit. But so we've got Lorella DeLuca, and she's credited as Hallie Hammond here, which I don't know why, as Miss Ruby. She was also in The Return of Ringo and in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. So, like I said, we're going to have to cover that on our other show. Then finally, we've got Jose Manuel Martin, who played Pedro, one of the scummiest of the scumbags, bandits. He's the lieutenant to Sancho. He was in quite a few movies. He's also in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and he's in Django Shoots First in 1966, God Forgives, I Don't in 1967, 100 Rifles in 1969, which is that's a really good movie, Count Dracula's Great Love in 1973 with Paul Naschy, and The Castle of Fu Manchu with Christopher Lee in 1969, as well as one that I happened to catch recently called A Dog Called Vengeance in 1977. That's an interesting movie because it's on this multi-pack of exploitation films that I have, and I just randomly threw one in. And it's got Jason Miller, who plays the young priest in The Exorcist, and he's basically pursued by this killer dog through the whole movie. But it somehow works. I thought it was really enjoyable.
Yeah.
So that's our cast.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is a great cast. I think they did a really good job, especially with, the way they portrayed Miss Ruby. I think she was, they had her with this look of, oh, I'm a damsel in distress. Oh. But, yeah, like, I was confusing her when I said Westworld earlier. Because the character that she reminds me of is named Dolores, Evan Rachel Wood. She's this blonde that seems to be like, oh, my dad's a really important guy, and my intended is like also like a lawman. I live in this really nice ranch.
Right.
She's got that, country girl type aesthetic, but deep down she's a badass. Like, and you see that, like, the first thing she does is go and get a gun. And see, that's the other thing that kind of threw me off when, later in the film when Ringo's like, oh, if only I could have a gun. And, like, as they're talking, there's a rifle hung above, like, the like, little archway, and there's, like, 6 pistols hanging on a wall. Like, they confiscated all the guns. It's like, what are those, then? Like, there's 7 guns right there. Too. Like, maybe they're old, but they're absolutely guns.
Right.
Like that, I was like maybe this is lost. Maybe they mentioned something in Italian about the guns being like deactivated or missing pieces or something, and that's why they're just display pieces. But it's like there's
Or they just simply didn't have ammo for it too.
yeah, but I mean you can find ammo. I mean, I don't know.
That's true. Yeah, I did notice that as well. I was like, okay, well, I guess we'll just have to go with it. But what's interesting is this movie was not only inspired by Lorne Greene's song Ringo, which was released in '64, but also the real Johnny Ringo, who was involved in a long-running dispute with the Earp family, and he may have been involved in the gunfight at the OK Corral. And we saw in previous movies, in the movie The Gunfight at the OK Corral from '57, John Ireland played Johnny Ringo, and Michael Biehn played him in Tombstone in 1993. So the character of Ringo, who's based on a real person, has been around, but this, like I said, the Lorne Greene made a song singing just about Ringo, had nothing to do with Bonanza. So I guess they just kind of got the idea, hey, this Ringo guy's pretty cool, you need to do a movie about him. But he's nothing like the real person in this movie. You know, he plays hopscotch, like I said, he plays hopscotch, he drinks milk.
Yeah, he's like a child almost. And it's like, oh, let's play a game, kids, and then he shoots 4 guys in the face.
Yeah. Yeah, he's very much like a kid in this, but then, yeah, he's dangerous, too, which is cool. And I thought it was interesting, I thought the title, when I walked into it, I was kind of wondering what the title meant. And it's one of those things where if he had only had a pistol, at the beginning with Sancho and his gang, he could have easily just taken them all down, right away. I think he knew going into it, though, that there was too many. So the whole thing, it really does revolve around the title, which is the pistol for Ringo. It says ultimately he finally gets the pistol at the end of the movie.
Yeah, it's like, well, with a name like that, he's got to get a gun at the end.
Yeah. I love when he gets arrested for gunning down the Benson gang, and he walks into the jail cell, and there's a dude lying in the bed, and he just flips the bed over and knocks the guy out of the bed.
He's like, hey, you mind if I sit there? And the guy's like, meh. I don't know whatever happened to that guy, because he's never there after that. Like, he's just gone.
Yeah, it was, again, like just a funny scene. They just probably, forgot about him afterwards. Or maybe he fell through a trapdoor.
Yeah, probably. I mean, that's most likely what it was. Like, they executed him, like, he opened up the trapdoor and he fell, and there was some poison needles there.
Right. Oh, man. So, I know you haven't seen the movie Django yet, but Django's got a really great theme song, and I didn't really care for the Ringo's theme song. I guess it was a hit in Italy, but...
it didn't... It was not a good theme.
No.
I was like, all right, this is my least favorite part of this movie, is the theme song.
Right.
Yeah, it was not good. Mainly because of how often they repeated the line "angel face." It's like, oh, he's the deadliest gunslinger in the West. What's his name? Angel Face. It's like, oh, he's the deadliest draw since Cutie Pants. Come up with a who's riding into town? Oh, it's Black Bart and his gang. Like, that's, or like, oh, they call him the rattlesnake. Like,
right.
Oh, it's good old Rainbow Shoes. Like that's not scary. Like,
Twinkle Toes.
Angel Face. It's like something you'd call it a child. Like, oh, it's going to be all right, Angel Face.
Right.
I'm here to rob your bank. What's your name? Honey Muffin. Like,
and it's kind of sad because Ennio Morricone made that song, and his score was good, but that song was just not good.
No, the song was not. No, the score was good. Like, I can't. I can't speak to watching a ton of westerns because I think this is like the third one that I've seen.
Yeah.
Or fourth if you want to count like Hateful Eight and Django Unchained.
Right.
So I guess 4 or 5. But the themes have always been good. It's the same, except for that weird like flute, like whatever that wind instrument is. Every time like they say Angel Face, and it's like those 3 or 4 notes. It's like, what is that?
Right. And I think on the director's part, that was intentional comedy. I think, by doing that with the music and the whole angel face thing, because one of the things he does with this movie is he really, like I said before, he turns the tables on this and makes this more ironic than what we're expecting. We're walking in expecting a certain kind of a Western movie because we've already seen, the ones that came before it, and it doesn't do quite that thing, quite what the others did.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely he's definitely an anti-hero, and like the sheriff is almost played off as like a bad guy, and like you don't want to root for him because he's kind of like just a bland dick. Like,
right.
There's nothing, like usually in these types of movies, like the sheriff is like the main guy and you're kind of rooting for him. But like this guy is just, he's so generic. He's so paint by numbers. Like he doesn't even have a unique look to him.
Yeah.
As opposed to that guy, Tim, I think his name is. I've said that like 6 times. The kid with the glasses that was playing cards.
Right. Yeah. I don't know what his name was.
But like he stood out more as a character than, the sheriff. Like the sheriff might as well have been like a cardboard cutout, or like,
yeah,
like, oh, which horse was your favorite? Oh, I don't know, the sheriff,
right?
Like,
and Tessari was he was known for using Hollywood Western cliches in his movies, but he sort of had this ability to just kind of integrate what seemed like incompatible ingredients and shove them together into a movie and make it work. And, I think that kind of proves that he wasn't just a Sergio Leone imitator, and, that there were other directors out there that could do a solid spaghetti Western,
Right, and this is a solid subversion of expectations. I know that's something that, that's a term that gets thrown around a lot over the last few years, but generally you go into it thinking like, okay, the sheriff, like that's his girl, like, oh, the sheriff's gonna do something, and it's just like, no, like the sheriff wasn't even remotely the main focus.
Right.
Like, it was, obviously the guy whose name is in the title, but the back and forth between him and Sancho, and him and Ruby. I thought those characters were really done well, and then you think, you're thinking that, oh man, he only cares about himself, he doesn't care about anybody else. But then you see the scene with Chico at the end,
right,
which I thought was excellent.
Yeah, that was well done.
The other thing that kind of threw me off, and it never got resolved, like they never went back to it, was when they're getting away, the people at the end are getting away, all the hostages, and there was a nice payoff to an earlier scene where Ruby puts the reins, the horse reins, on like a post next to her in the front of the wagon.
Yeah.
Picks up a gun and shoots the bandito.
Right.
But like, when they show her again, she goes to reach for the reins, but they're not there, and she has this look of like fear on her face, like, oh no, how am I going to control the horses? And then nothing ever comes of that.
Right.
Like, they don't. I'm like, oh, how's she going to get the reins? Like, are they going to show her like reaching down and like just being able to, grab it, or like what? And they just show them riding away, apparently not needing the reins. The horses know where to go.
Well, I think that the firecrackers spooked the horses, so I don't think she was very.
No, I'm talking about after that.
Right
after that,
I don't think she was very much in control of the wagon, though, and it wasn't until the sheriff came up that and pulled, stopped the horses, that he was able to stop, because the wagon was just the horses were just running.
Right, but she had the reins in her hand, and then she put them like on a little post.
Yeah.
So she could, grab the gun, and then when she went back to grab them, they were gone, and she was like, oh, the reins are gone. Like, so she could at least, now that the horses are far enough away, like, pull up on the reins and kind of slow them down, but
Right. I mean, who knows? Maybe when
but
she shot the guy, maybe that spooked the horses further.
I mean, it couldn't have helped.
Yeah.
But it was just weird to me that they never resolved the thing with the reins and the horses just kept running in a straight line. It's like, all right, one of those things doesn't work.
Right.
Either she found the reins and she was able to hang on to them, or I don't know. That just, it's one of those. It didn't factor into the plot really, so it wasn't a huge deal.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting because they would have had to have, if she ties off the reins, but then they would have had to have had them fall off so that she wouldn't have control of the wagon so the sheriff could save her, in terms of the story.
Right.
So just I wanted to touch on Ringo again too, which because I love his childlike demeanor. I mean, he's got this casual disregard for danger, just like kids do. And one of the things I found in my research that drinking the milk instead of whiskey, that goes back to a film called Destry Rides Again from 1939, and it's throughout cinematic history. It's been the preferred beverage of ironic Western heroes, which I thought was interesting. And he's definitely self-centered. He's all about self-preservation and the accumulation of wealth. I mean, he even says at one point that he'll often switch sides like his father did in the Civil War because the odds were in favor of the North. It's just a matter of principle.
Yeah, he brought that up many, many times, the whole matter of principle thing.
Yeah.
Although I think, with the way that, Westerns tended to go in that time, that was kind of brought up as like a red herring to just to make you think that he was going to double cross Sheriff Ben. But, most of these things have a happy ending.
Right. But not always, as we're starting to learn.
No, not always. But, there's, for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah, especially just the way this movie
good guy
ended.
wins right off into the sunset.
Yeah. He took his 30%. That was so cool. But
yeah, I want to know when he had the chance to do that and where he put it, because it just looked like him on that horse. I didn't see any saddlebags.
Right.
I don't think his pockets were big enough to fit $15,000 in.
I mean, he put it under his hat.
Yeah, that's probably where it would go.
But he's hilarious, though, too. Like, well, first of all, I like the part where he's like, yeah, all right, I'm getting 30% of the money, but I also want to be exonerated of these, murder charges here. So they do this quickie trial. I thought that was hilarious. The judge is like, blah, 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 like wicked fast going through it. And then, okay, you're clear.
I was like, all right, yeah, because Sheriff Ben's like, we'll try you after. And he's like, no, you won't. Like, nope, I'm not going to do everything for you, and then you find me guilty of murder.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to put myself in harm's way just for you to, like, screw me over. Nope, you're going to do it now, and we all know how it's going to end up.
Yeah. But he's just so, that was a hilarious scene, which I did not expect it to be like that. And they're these very serious characters doing that.
And yeah, I thought that was great.
And when Ringo first goes to the ranch there, and he's talking to Sancho, and he lights up a cigarette for Dolores, and he's kind of captivated by her because he doesn't notice that the match is still on fire until it burns down to his hand. He's like, "Ooh, ow!" So he's got this interesting, whimsical demeanor, I think.
Yeah, he's definitely fun. Like he's not like really like stuck up and like hoity-toity. He's just like, kind of just playing along, and like he knows that he's smarter than everybody else in the room, or maybe not smarter, but more clever.
Yeah, more cunning.
Like when they're talking about getting when he first meets the gang, and he just kind of like strolls past everybody. He's like, "Oh, you can't shoot me. It wouldn't be fair."
Right.
Like, and he just like walks right by him, goes right up to Sancho. Like, guys are pulling guns on him, and he's like, "Oh, let me see your wound. Oh, this will be gangrenous." It's like, "Oh, I operated on horses." It's like, "I'm not a horse. I'm not a surgeon." So, like, that's so great. And he's getting like all the whiskey, and they're clearing out. They were very. I was surprised when they're like, oh, we have to put him in here and lay him on a table. They were like very nice about moving the stuff and
Right.
carefully placed it in other, as opposed to just like yanking everything off the table and like having it fly everywhere.
Right. Destroying everything.
Yeah. Then there's.
But I love when he's bringing Sancho in, and Ringo says, "Make way for the invalid."
Yeah. Like, that was a fun line that they used that, again, probably is one of those things that probably means something different in Italian than it does in English.
Right.
It's like he did use the Italian word for it.
Right.
Then, when he's trying to do the actual surgery, he's like, you have to take your gun off. He's like, I never take my gun off. And he's like, well, you're going to take it off now. He's like, I'll shoot you. He's like, go ahead. And then you'll lose your arm and die.
Yeah.
So he takes the gun off. Then he pours the whiskey onto the bullet wound. And Sancho freaks out. He goes, see, if you had your gun right now, you would have shot me.
Yeah. Oh.
That's why you're not allowed to have nice things.
Right. But then Sancho decides he wants Ringo as his personal doctor, which I thought was funny.
Yeah. So again, like I brought up in the opening there, he has a bullet in his left shoulder.
Right.
But somehow we see him later when he's shaving, and he uses his mirror to shoot somebody behind him, which is kind of a dick move.
Yeah.
But he's shaving, and there is a hole in his jacket, a bullet hole where he got shot, and
Right.
It's got blood on it. And it's like, if Ringo dug the bullet out, what is that all about?
Right. Why is there an exit wound?
It wouldn't have gone through. If it went right through, like that's a different procedure altogether.
Yeah. That didn't make much sense.
To me, little inconsistent, but
yeah.
Whatever.
Well, I love the scene though after he patches up Sancho, where the guys try to get Ringo to drink, and he refuses, and he humiliates the guy by beating him with the trophy cup.
Yeah.
That was whatever
Go
it was,
ahead.
spittoon.
Reach for the. I mean, it looked like a trophy.
Yeah.
So go ahead, reach for your gun, and he crushed his hand.
Yeah. Oh man, because that was just so cool. Like how he just was so dangerous even without his pistol. And he just he reminded me of Hai-To in The Kid with the Golden Arm, and not that with the drinking, but just the way he waded through scenes, knowing full well what he was going to do, how he was going to get out of it, and just with the confidence that both characters had. I thought there was a parallel there.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Like they definitely both had this air of confidence, and no matter what the situation is, I'll get out of it. Even though I might be outnumbered or outgunned, I can talk my way out of it. He's not an overly great hand-to-hand fighter. I mean, that fight scene went on forever.
Yeah.
With Pedro there, like that went on forever.
Oh, and towards the end, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm 100% convinced that most of these fight scenes at the end of westerns are just to see like how much stuff they can wreck and how many things they can smash through.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I mean, that's all they did was just wreck everything, and it was fun. It was an entertaining fight scene, but it's like, oof, like just once I would love to see a guy like that. It's like, oh, I don't have a gun, but I'm also trained. I'm a trained martial artist, and his opponent's just like, put up your dukes, I'm gonna give you a knuckle sandwich, and like the dude just like busts out like praying mantis kung fu and just kicks the shit out of him. Like, I guess they kind of did that in like Shanghai Noon.
Yep.
I haven't seen those.
Oh, those are
but
good.
Like it's a a Western with Jackie Chan, so obviously he is able to use martial arts against and normally I use a gun, so
right.
I don't know how to fight because I use a gun.
Yeah, no, those movies are very good. And also, we covered in episode 1, Stranger and the Gunfighter. So you should definitely check that one out because it's a teaming up of the Shaw Brothers and Lee Van Cleef in a Western. And
oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's really good. And it's funny, too.
I heard of one that's supposed to be a similar type of thing, but it's like Shaw Brothers meets the Hammer Dracula films, where it's
Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires. Yep.
7, yes.
Yeah, that's one I want to cover on this show too, because that's just the ultimate combination of Hammer and the Shaw Brothers. One of the scenes that I thought was hilarious too was Ringo basically says to Sancho that he wants 40% of the money. He's already laid out the plan. He's told him, which at first I was like thinking he was stupid for doing it, but he told him the whole thing about the plan he made with the sheriff, or the deal he made with the sheriff. And he tells that to Sancho and then says, but I'll do it. I'll help you if you give me 40%, and I'll give you till tomorrow to think about it. And he leaves the room, and Sancho and his men are, deciding it, and Sancho's like, we'll just kill him afterwards. And then Ringo pops his head back in, and he goes, yeah, you shouldn't plan to kill me afterwards.
Yeah, it definitely has shades of the last movie where it's like, oh, I guess I can retire. Oh, no!
Right. Oh, man, but those bad guys were just so nasty. It was funny to watch the Major just be so cultured and refined, and in the face of these bad guys where they just, picking their nose and wiping it on the curtains. And
yeah, it's definitely very, sophisticated British aristocrat.
Yeah, calm under the face of danger, pressure. He's just...
Oh my, how uncivilized. Here, have a stew.
Yeah. Oh, and then they're having dinner, and Ringo kind of, backs Pedro off of Ruby again because he's trying to get her, and he gets Ruby to sit down, and Pedro whips a knife at him, and it hits the chicken, and Ringo just takes the knife and uses that to carve up the chicken and serve it to Ruby.
Yeah, that's funny.
I just thought that was brilliant, yeah. And then, as Pedro starts to move in on him like he's going to fight him, and then the Major comes in, and he manages to calm everybody down by playing his gramophone that he got from his friend Mr. Edison, which I thought was a nice little touch.
Yeah, but he said Mr. Edison from Boston, and
right.
Edison was from New Jersey.
Oh. Well, maybe he traveled to Boston one day and gave him a gramophone. I don't know.
Yes. Door-to-door gramophones from New Jersey to Boston.
Gramophone grams.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that was cool how Ringo kept intervening with Pedro. Because you knew sooner or later she was going to get raped. And it was just... Yeah. Especially when, Ringo is not there, when he's out setting the dynamite or whatever. That the what's his name? Pedro just kind of took advantage of that.
Yeah. He did his best, anyways. Then that kid... I was like, oh, man, this kid's going to pull a Friday the 13th and Amy Steele and kill him with the pitchfork.
Yeah. Which I thought the kid had the knife from the apple scene. Because remember they made a point of showing him pick it up off the floor, the apple with the knife in it, and he took the knife. So I thought he would have had it. And that's what he would have used.
Yeah. And the guy thought there was going to be some kind of callback to that, like a Chekhov's gun type thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And then... There's a scene where the sheriff is, not too far away from the house, and he snipes a couple of the guys through the window, I think, and one was on the roof. And there's another guy standing out there, and Ringo leans out and goes, he sees what happened. He goes, getting up early is bad for your health.
Yeah, I was just that was a good line. Glad I slept in. It's like, oh, you're such a dick.
Right. Oh, man. And then at one point he says to Ruby that he feels naked without his pistol, and you wouldn't want a naked man in the house. And she goes, no.
Yeah, you don't want a naked guy walking around in the house.
Yeah. She's just like, no. Another funny scene, too. I mean, this movie was chock full of them, but it wasn't an outright comedy. But where Sancho's sitting at the table with his buddies, and he calls for Dolores, and she's not answering. And then one of the guys says, oh, she's probably too busy listening to the Major's Sweet Nothings. He grabs a bottle and hits him over the head with it.
He just smashes it right in his face.
For no reason. Well, I mean, for obvious reason, but it's just a little harsh, you know. At least a biff up the side of the head would have sufficed.
Yeah, like a smack upside the head. Well, I mean, he didn't shoot him in the face, like
right.
So. I guess that was okay.
And I love the scene. I think the humor in this film. It just dawned on me. The humor in this film works because it's natural. It's like humor you would have in real life. For example, the scene where Ringo's laying out the plan of what they're going to do on the table, and okay, the bowl of fruit represents the farm, and this apple represents the mill, and we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And one of the bad guys sticks his knife, like that we had just mentioned, in the apple because he's going to eat it, and Ringo grabs it and goes, "Hands off my mill." It was great humor without resorting to slapstick comedy, you know.
Right, you know, and again, there was enough of the common tropes like I discussed earlier. You know, guy gets shot, holds his chest or his stomach, and tumbles off a roof.
Yeah,
another guy falls through the through the railing. Another guy falls down the stairs. Like there's all that, but there's also like the like we said, the subversion of expectations with who Ringo was, and you legitimately were like, is this guy really like? I think when I finally realized like what he was doing, like, and he, what side he was on,
yeah, was
towards the end when like they've got him all tied up because they gave the wrong signal, and they start like just beating the shit out of him,
right?
And he's like, all right, well, you can kill me, but you're not. You're going to give me 60%.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's like what?
I love how he was able to talk his way into and out of things.
Yeah. And as soon as he was like untied, he like did that great 3-punch combo to the guy that was beaten up. He's like, I don't like being beat up when I can't fight back.
Yeah.
It's a matter of principle.
And one scene that I thought was hilarious for no reason too, because the Major and Dolores come down to dinner, and they're all gussied up, and they sit at the table, and Sancho's sitting across from Dolores, and he just like rips this brooch right off her dress, and the Major demands that he give it back to her. So Sancho punches him, knocks him on his ass, and then he turns, and there's a servant just standing there, minding his own business, just holding a plate of food, and Sancho grabs the plate and shoves it in the servant's face. Like, what the fuck?
Or when they're all sitting around for Christmas dinner, and he's like grabbing everything with his bare hands. He's like, oh, you want some chicken? And he like just plops it on her plate.
Yeah. That's so gross.
It's like, oh, what? Like, that's gross.
Now, did you notice there was one? Oh, first off, I keep forgetting to mention this. Didn't you think at certain camera angles that Gemma Ringo looked like James Franco?
A little bit. Like, that might have been intentional. Ringo, Django, like...
No. Yeah, but no, not...
James Franco, not Franco Nero.
Right.
Yeah.
You confused me for a second there.
Yeah, I confused myself. But yeah, I could kind of see it.
Yeah.
And if you haven't, again, that's another good Western, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Oh, I have not seen that.
Oh, it's an anthology, and it's amazing. James Franco is in it, and he has one of the funniest lines in a movie that I've seen this year, and I've seen almost 360 movies this year. So,
wow.
Yeah, go do yourself a favor, especially if you like what there's a Tom Waits is in one. I can never remember his name. He's got like 3 names. Tim Blake Nelson is in the opening one, and it's bonkers and bizarre, and the whole thing is just awesome. It's so good.
Oh, I'll have to check that out. Yeah, I just wrote that down.
Yeah. Ballad of Buster Scruggs, so good.
I think I saw that in passing. Is it on like Netflix or Prime?
It's probably on Netflix.
Yeah, I think it was Netflix. I'll have to check that out. But there was one scene that I thought was, I don't know if this was a blooper or what. I want to know if you noticed this too. So Sancho and his guys are sitting outside at night, and I swear they were shooting day for night because one of the guys just throws his bottle up in the air, and Sancho shoots it. And I was thinking, well, if it was really at like 10 o'clock at night, like it was supposed to be, he wouldn't be able to see the bottle very well.
Yeah, it was definitely like the middle of the afternoon.
Yeah,
like it was absolutely not nighttime at all.
Yeah, and they just did day
unless
for night.
They were in Alaska.
Right. Yeah, I was definitely
and
thinking
Buster
they were doing
Scruggs
day
is
for
on
night.
Netflix.
Say that again?
Buster Scruggs is on Netflix.
Oh, okay. Oh, cool. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. So then we have...
And for folks listening, too.
Yes, absolutely. So then we have, of course, Pedro tries to rape Ruby because now Ringo's off. Got James Franco in the brain now. Ringo's off setting up the dynamite, and, he's got his whole little plan here going on. That, like we said, the little kid distracts the Pedro, and he doesn't actually stab him with the pitchfork. Like you said, I thought he was going to go all Tommy.
He just, like, jabs it into his ass.
Yeah.
Like, enough to distract him.
Right. And now this scene coming up was really good because Ringo arrives in time and he stops it, and Pedro's just pissed, and he's like, this is it, we're going to fight. And Ringo looks at him and he basically says, I'm going to kill you and Sancho's going to watch. And he does exactly that. He calls Sancho over and he's like, well, this guy's an idiot. I think he needs to be beaten up. And Sancho's like, okay, go ahead. And finally...
All right, but no guns.
Yeah. So finally, Ringo kills Sancho with his own knife, and he goes, oh, this is your knife. I forgot I dropped it.
Yeah, didn't you recognize it?
Which is the knife from the apple. So maybe the kid gave it back to Ringo.
Yeah, and definitely, and he pulled the same line from the beginning. It was like, self-defense, you all saw it.
Right, yep.
I have witnesses.
Yeah. So I misspoke, too. He didn't give it back to Ringo. I would imagine he just gave it to him, obviously, because it was Pedro's knife to begin with.
Yeah.
So then we've got the whole scene where he gets beat up because I didn't quite understand the whole thing about the signal. And, like, they were doing it 3 times, which the light was very dim to begin with. I don't even know how they could see that from a distance, but they would do the signal 3 times, but then Sancho says, well, we're going to do it 6 times this next one. And I didn't understand that. I didn't, what difference would that have made?
Then my guess is it's slightly different, so it's something that, I think he just told him that. He told him 6 times to see if he was going to double cross him, which he did.
Right.
He probably told the other guy, maybe do it 4 times. Or do it 3 times, but do it like 2 quick ones and wait a second, and then the 3rd one. Like, so it's still 3 times, so it won't, arouse suspicion on the other side. Like, you're still giving the same signal that they're expecting to see. But do it slightly different so we know it's you.
I guess I just didn't understand what the signals meant.
I don't know what the signals were supposed to be, but because they've been doing the signals the whole time. They're basically just like, hey, we're still here. We haven't gone anywhere yet. We're just
right.
We're okay. Like, we haven't seen anything. Like, they haven't tried to escape, and no one's come to get us.
They should have just texted them.
They should have. It would have been way easier.
Yeah, so I thought that was odd. And like you said, he tells the sheriff to do it 6 times. But I don't know. There's still some confusion there because who signaled first? Was it the sheriff signaling first or the bad guys? It was the sheriff, right? He signaled the 6 times.
Yeah, I think it was the sheriff. I'm trying to remember. I think so.
So I don't know. Maybe I'm just harping on a plot point that's not really very necessary. But I didn't quite get the whole signal thing. And like you said, it's probably just, hey, we're here kind of thing. And then, but I still didn't understand what difference it made if you signaled 4 times or 6 times. All right. Anyways, let's move on from that. So Ringo talks his way once again out of being beat up, and he ends up with 60% of the money.
Yeah, and then he ends up going up to 60%. Like, oh.
Sancho's like, damn it.
Every time I open my mouth, I lose money.
So then, of course, we get into the end fight where the horses in the wagon go off, and the sheriff shoots the dynamite that Ringo planted to block to stop the bad guys from chasing or getting away and chasing after Ruby and them. And so they come back, and Ringo's only got 2 bullets, so he's fighting. He's trying to fight without using his gun, and he's on the roof. And I thought it was cool because there's a bad guy on the roof, and Ringo jumps on him, and they crash through the skylight, and the bad guy hits the floor, and Ringo lands on his feet on the piano. And it was a very cool, almost superhero-like pose.
Yeah, they kind of, set that up a little bit because they had been showing him, like, do these, like, crazy, ridiculous athletic feats throughout the entire runtime.
Yeah.
Like, jumping over a wall here very easily, balancing, walking along this other, wall. And, yeah, they definitely were trying to, set it up where make it believable that this guy could tackle someone through a skylight and land on his feet on a piano.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, as you do.
Right. That was just such a cool shot. I love the way it was framed. I love the way he landed. And it was him. It wasn't a stuntman,
Yeah, there were some great stunt shots in some of these westerns that we've been watching. So,
right.
I dig it.
And then, of course, Dolores got stabbed, and I was like, no, not want.
Yeah, do not want.
Do not want. And then, of course, we finally end with Ringo, what's his name? The Major tosses Ringo an antique gun, which happened to be loaded, and he ricochets the bullet off, killing Sancho, which was cool the way he sort of had it calculated out before he took the shot.
It was almost like he was setting up a pool shot.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And I don't know. I'm not a fan of ricocheting a bullet off of. If it was like a big church bell, I could see it.
That's true.
But that little tiny bell that probably weighs a few ounces.
Right. Yeah, it would move and alter the trajectory of the bullet. So.
Yeah, the bullet would just go right through.
I thought it was funny, just kind of jumping around here. I thought when the sheriff at the beginning tells Ringo to try using compassion, he calls him as sentimental as a schoolgirl.
Yeah, he. Because again, he didn't want anybody to know who he. Like, where his loyalties lie.
Right. But he does prove that the only way to defeat Sancho was with cunning and brute force. Compassion wasn't gonna cut it.
Yeah, he figured that out, early on.
And I like how he twisted the proverb. He says, Ringo says, God created men equal, the 6-gun made him different. And the original proverb is, God created man, but it was Sam Colt's revolver that made him equal. So it was kind of a nice little take on that.
He just said the Colt.
Yeah.
But it could be lost in translation, so it's close enough.
Right.
Like, you knew what he meant, even though, again, it wasn't exact, but it's close enough, so.
Yeah.
And it got the point across. It wasn't like, oh, God created man, Colts make men different. Like, or like, something, baby horses make men different. It's like, wait, what? Do want.
do not want. There was a point in real life where Gemma, the actor who played Ringo, was talking about Sergio Leone and Tessari's directing styles, and he's quoted as saying that they both combined violence with irony, but Leone accentuated the violence and Tessari accentuated the irony. And I think we got a lot of that here in this movie. Very well done, very different from what we've seen so far in terms of, just the character. Even though he's still an anti-hero, he's still, his loyalties are in question, but there's just so much more about this film that's different in terms of the humor and the irony, as we pointed out. So what are your final thoughts on Pistol for Ringo, Pat?
I definitely enjoyed this. I thought the characters were a lot of fun. The fact that it was in Italian and subtitled made no difference to me. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching it. I enjoyed, the way the plot unfurled, kept you guessing. Like, it was done really well. It wasn't like, oh, this movie was made, 60 years ago. Yeah, I'll be able to guess how it ends. And it's like, no, you don't know how it ends. Like,
right.
It's twisting and turning, and I think that absolutely gives it a rewatchability and, shows you how good of a film it is.
Absolutely. Yeah, I enjoyed it too. I may go and watch the DVD English dub at some point this week just to check it out and see what the differences are. But I just love the fact that this movie, well, not only just well acted and well shot and everything, and the music, of course, was Morricone, so that was great. But it was at the point where these movies were starting to set up the rules for the genre, but it was also breaking the rules as well. And I guess that's where the irony therein lies. I really enjoyed this movie immensely, and I highly recommend it to you, the listener, to check it out. Like we said, both films are on Prime. And Patsy, why don't you tell the folks where they can find you online?
Best place to find me is at throwdownthursdaypodcast.com. That's got links to all the social media, and every time I write a new article, it goes up there. I just wrote one recently about what makes a Christmas movie, and whether or not you can consider Die Hard a Christmas movie. And I know that's a touchy subject this time of year, but I think I make some valid points, and I think you might agree with the overall tone of the article. You can also find me every Thursday on Spotify and wherever fine podcasts are found. You can find me on the Throwdown Thursday podcast with my wife, Ashes Von Nightmare. You can find me every Friday on both YouTube and Spotify for the Loudest Sports Show that I do with my brothers. Every Monday for the Indie Creator Spotlight. And you can also find me on Amazon. I have multiple books up there. How Much Do You Tip an Exorcist? VHS Nightmares, and More Lore from the Mythos, Volume 1 and 2. Those last three are all anthologies. So it's me and a bunch of other folks that are part of that. But help us out. Get some, buy some books, get some good reading material, and support a bunch of local authors.
Excellent, excellent. And we'll definitely have to have you on over at Then Is Now again so we can talk in depth about your books and promote them.
Oh, I'd love to.
Yeah, that'd be great. And one thing I did want to say before we close is that in my household, Die Hard is a Christmas movie. And every year, my son Spencer and I will watch a double feature of Die Hard and Lethal Weapon, which we both consider to be Christmas movies.
I mean, you can read my article and see what I think.
Yeah.
I don't consider them Christmas movies, but there's a reason why I don't consider them Christmas movies. So,
all right. Yeah, I will definitely check that out. So that's all the time we have for today's episode of The East Meets the West. We hope you learned more about spaghetti westerns and Shaw Brothers films in this episode. If you want to let us know your thoughts on the show, email us at theeastmeetsthewest42@gmail.com. The East Meets the West can be found on all of your favorite podcasting services, including iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. You can also visit our website at havenpodcasts.com and check out our sister show, Then Is Now Podcast, where we teach you about all the cool stuff you may have missed out on as well as other fun stuff. Join us again next time.
Countries that know only the springtime and you green.
The East Meets the West is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. All clips played on the show are property of their copyright holders. All other material is copyright Jupiter Media.
And the woman who was waiting for his return. Across the canyons he laughed, down the valleys dead, and he left behind a river of blood. For his life was guided by a cruel law. He only had a mind to get cold. Rivers, you know how is a story, and his laughing was a presage of death. Ringo had an angel face, but whenever Ringo laughed, Ringo fight. Poor Ringo had an angel face, but whenever Ringo laughed, Ringo fight.
Do not want.
Yeah, do not want.